the quality drops off on the stream or anything, I'll close it.
So, are we live? Are we not live? It always takes a little bit longer to come through on my phone than it seems to on everybody else's, unfortunately.
It says you're in the show.
We're in the show.
Shows live 2 seconds.
There we go.
Oh, I'm thrown into some ads at the moment.
Oh, brilliant.
I've got to screw balls on and then I'm done. And all 8 of them are back in.
We are live. Thank you, Craig. It's just lately, there's been so much delay in what StreamYard tells you what's live and what's not live, and comments and stuff like that. Because I've still got the adverts coming through on mine for some reason.
Yeah, we're good. We're live on mine. We're all good.
Brilliant. Okay, so first of all, hello to everybody in chat. Thank you so much for coming along. For anybody new, we are live every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. There's a video out every Monday and Thursday at 7. And
hello, W. Hello, everybody else.
The first hour, we don't do any swearing, just in case any kids pop in. But come 9 p.m, yeah, there's a lot of swearing. So come 9 p.m, you might want to move the children from in front of the YouTube, let's say. So just before we come on out, we were just discussing how kind of the whole ant community is literally just growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
Chris has just put £2 on the chat saying fake beard Smurf. Cheers, Chris. Chris, you woke up. How much of it has it grown since you both started doing it?
It's really hard to know, right? Well, Sid's been around longer than I have, but for me it's hard to know because, like any business, you have no sales and then all of a sudden you have sales. But it's just business growth. I don't know whether it's industry growth or just business, but we've got 3 of us in the team now. We're working, so I guess it's growing 3 times more than just me coping on my own.
What got you?
I would say. Want me to hop in? I would say that, to be honest, from what it was 5 to 6 years ago, if I could put a number on something, I'd say it's grown about 8-fold. Purely just based on the amount of species available, the availability, the amount of stores popping up, the amount of social media there is on it, the amount of content there is being made on it. So yeah, it's a very fast growing hobby. But I think hopefully at during this conversation, you might start getting a feeling as to why.
That was kind of the why is going to be. PJ Ants just put £1 on the chat. Thank you, dude. What got you both into ants in the first place? Because they are it is a very quiet hobby, or it was years ago. So how did you both kind of get into ants in the first place?
We all spent our childhood watching Ant Nest, didn't we?
Yes.
Didn't we all do that? And then did you never look at them and think, wouldn't it be cool if I could just contain that and watch them forever? Or am I just that much of a loser? It's one or the other.
I think my earliest memory of ants is literally falling into a red ant colony when I was little and getting stung all over my legs and my bum and
okay,
everywhere.
So you've got PTSD, but for most people, it just is a childhood thing, isn't it, to watch them? And then as you get older and you realise you can do what you want and you allow bugs in your own home, you can pick up a queen and it all starts from there.
How about you, Sid?
I mean, to be honest, I only recently kind of found ants. So say probably when I got into it was almost as soon as I found it. If I'm genuinely honest, before 4-5 years ago, I thought there was pretty much in the UK anyway. There was just red and black ants. I didn't know different versions of them. And when I say red, I just mean the little yellow, the garden meadow ants. But into praying mantis, spiders. I've been a bug kid my entire life, and they've always fascinated me. But I think the problem with ants before, and the reason why it's been so stunted, is there was no real way. If you go back 15 years, people were keeping tarantulas, people were keeping praying mantis because it was a thing you could quite easily do. You just need a container. Obviously it's expanded, but you go back 15 years and you do not have ant farms available, proper ones that you can actually raise. They only had these ones from the toy shops, which are put a layer of sand in, and you weren't even meant to create colonies. You just throw some ants in and they dig some tunnels and they die. So there's no real, it's not very interesting. And it's not until I actually started realizing, actually, do you know what? People can raise proper colonies in, and it's actually possible. And then it's what lures you in a little bit, and then you start realizing, wait a minute, wow, there's so much depth to ants. There's so much social behavior. I love praying mantis, but they're feeding them. They're not doing a whole lot. Spiders, again, a lot of the time, they're really interesting when it comes to feeding, but then when it's maybe not molting or it's just chilling out most of the time, and also it's very species specific. So some spiders can be, just hide themselves away, you never see them. With ants, there's usually always something going on, and between the different species, like these ones on the stream, these ones here, they grow to millions and millions of numbers in size. They cultivate their own fungus. They're farmers. They've got jaws that have metal in them. There's so much stuff that you kind
Did you
of
just say the
learn
ants have
from
got
it.
metal in their jaws?
And so much depth in them.
Zinc, yeah.
Yeah, their jaws of zinc. Yeah,
Wow, that's
how they stay so sharp.
incredible.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of one of the things they do, and when their jaws wear down, they basically have different tasks throughout their life. So when they're kind of younger workers, they're often out cutting leaves because their jaws are sharp. Then as they wear out, they get kind of relegated to dealing with trash chambers and stuff. And then there's very tiny ants that deal. So there's jobs and roles that they're all individually made for. So when you really delve into ants, you start realizing, damn, that there's so much depth here. There's so much science. There's so much behavior to learn. Even now, after being involved with them for 5 years, I still feel like an absolute beginner because there's just so much to learn and so much unexplored stuff with ants.
There's a couple of cheers, ant keeping Rushton. For anybody in the comments, we'll come around to questions probably in about 20 minutes. Yeah, I think.
Hi, Dave. Uncle Dave in the chat.
Is he? Hi, Dave. I think Dave's got leaf cut, isn't he?
Nice.
I think for me with ants, although I had a three queen colony that crashed, so I do need to try again. But the things that kind of keep my interest towards them, apart from the friends who obviously keep ants, such as Callum and what have you, is going on those documentary channels and going from it's just ants to going, what they're building a bridge out of themselves.
Yeah.
And then to go look at the complexities of an ant's nest and how it's aerated, and the fact that they can send pheromones throughout the whole colony to tell the colony what's going on, and each individual worker or soldier knows exactly what they're doing. And they're so small. And when you think about what we get up to and the size of our brains and the complexities with our brains, it's like, how does an ant have all that information in such a tiny, tiny body? And how does it react to the pheromones that are coming through the colony? Cheers, Anton. That really fascinating.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah,
and you'll never stop learning
it's
as well.
One of the things I always.
Go on, Sid.
Sorry, there's a delay. I think it's one of the things that I always find so fascinating with pheromones. It's almost like they can communicate in more of a depth than we can through pheromones, than we can speaking. You know, they can communicate about moving a location of something, and not just moving a location of something, but all coordinating, 100 or 1,000 ants to single-handedly work together to communicate and move a singular object. Like, for example, there's a pan round when they've pulled some more leaves into the chamber, but they can lift funguses and relocate them. But that's equivalent, for looking size to 1,000 humans working together just by talking to lift the building and relocate it, 2 buildings to the side. But to do that without talking is what I always find really interesting. They do that just through pheromones.
I guess that is their language, though, isn't it? They are talking, just not in a way we understand so much.
But the only way we can relate to that type of communication would be, for us to evolve into what we are now and to have a mobile phone and to phone your mate up and say, "Yo, look, can you nip to the shop on your way home?" Ants just send up a pheromone and it just goes to them and then they come back with it. It's crazy.
It's nature at its finest, isn't it? It's remarkable how they communicate and how they all act as one. They all just it is just like one entity of beings, a colony is just one unit, one animal, because they all just know exactly what they're doing, even when they look like they don't. There's nothing accidental.
Yeah, humans can smell pheromones, but we mask them with deodorant.
Yeah, fair point, well made. Yeah,
we've probably been programmed by social media and such like not to like the smell of pheromones. To be honest, I would have thought. AntCon tickets are selling soon. What's the AntCon?
So that's
Callum Happy Ant's been banging on about it. He says it's over in Wales and.
So Sid and I, in Antics, where our shop is, Sid comes down as well and helps for the day. But basically it's just a day where you can meet other ant geeks and you can hang out for the day. We get some talkers to come in and do some talks. We do some discounts in the stores, but really it's like an annual thing to say thanks to our customers. We're still about come on down and meet some friends. Last year we only had 60 tickets. It's only a small venue, our venue. But this year we're converting some of the escape rooms we own as well, so we can get more people in. And we're doing 100 tickets this year. The tickets went live on the 7th and 75 have sold.
Where can we get those from?
From antcon.co.uk.
And where and when is it?
It's on the 13th of May, and it's in Carmarthen, in where our store is. Yeah.
Escape with Antscape, says Ants England.
Oh yeah, we have like games, activities through the day, things people can do. We've got lectures. We've even got this year coming, Empires of the Undergrowth, the video game. The devs of that game are coming down to do a talk about how ants are going mainstream in their research into producing the game. There's a massive spoiler that nobody in the chat knows. But yeah, we do all sorts of fun stuff through the day, and then of course at night when it's all over, we all meet down the pub, have some drinks, and get to know each other better.
Ask the moderators to drop Wakooshi and Antics links into the chat as well. They're also in the description. That'd be absolutely wicked. Should imagine Callum will get on that.
Hi, Jackie.
Ellie does some amazing pictures. And Lewis has just dropped the Facebook down as well. She does an ant one and she does spider ones, all sorts. Dave says, I think they're very basic in their communication. I had a breakout, but they couldn't get back in, but they didn't share that information with the others still living in the enclosure. Those are the leaf cutters. Just going to your leaf cutters, Sid, we had an interesting question asking about how a colony would move that fungus. Because the queen has to have that fungus, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Otherwise she cannot create another colony. So how do you guys do it if you're?
So ultimately, what they do, the fungus is not one kind of single entity as such. It's just lots of small pieces that they blend together. If a fungus is completely destroyed, which quite often happens, during shipping and things like that. What they do is they just gather it all back up, and they will rebuild the fungus. But they can work together and actually all lift a single fungus ball. I'll pan round over in a second and actually show what fungus looks like. But they can lift. They work together. It may be just maybe one side of the chamber where they actually grow them, let's say it gets flooded, and they might need to relocate it to maybe another side of whatever. But they can lift it. They can work together, and they can lift it and move the entire fungus without it breaking. I didn't even know this was possible until I witnessed them actually doing it. So where they've actually lifted it and in the same orientation and then moved it to the other side of the actual.
There's a whole
pod.
thing.
So yeah,
I've only ever seen them ripping chunks
the
off
whole
and
thing.
running with
The
it.
whole thing. No,
Wow.
they've lifted the entire fungus. I don't know how they did it.
It couldn't
But
have rolled.
They managed to relocate it. It's not that it's tipped. No,
Okay.
because it was in the same orientation. That's what I mean. That's why I kind of threw me. I was trying to think of any possible explanation to say how this would have got to the other side of the pod, but remained upright. Because it was when the fungus was at its tallest, and they've lifted it, shifted it along to the other side of the pod. So yeah, but it's just things like that. They can disassemble fungus and relocate it to a whole new area if they need to.
Yeah, that's all I've ever witnessed is them just ripping chunks off and running like nothing.
Homezoo said,
they'll often do it.
with the fungus, is it edible for humans or is it dangerous to us? Or
Do you know, I've got no idea. I've never tried it.
Rich.
I can't say I make a habit of nibbling on the fungus, but
nibble on the fungus and start painting psychedelics all around your bedroom.
Oh. No, I wouldn't have thought it's a mold, isn't it? Essentially. Hey, it might have some antibacterial properties or something. I don't know.
Half of it's just basically leaves, just dried leaves. I wouldn't imagine it would kill you, but I personally wouldn't try it.
No, I won't be dead, Scott. Sorry.
What was the first ant species you both kept, and what drew you to that species? Because a lot of the times you kind of speak to people and you go, "What's the best beginner ant?" and they give you a UK native, and you think, "I don't want to keep a UK native. I want to keep an exotic one."
Yeah, see, I didn't go for a UK native. I went for a harvester ant, Mesa barbarus. I went for one of those straight in. I loved harvester ants. I loved the collecting the seeds. I loved the polymorphism in the ants. So even though the best advice anyone could have given or did give was Alaceus niger, a common garden ant, it wasn't enough for me. So I went straight into exotics. But now I've got native colonies, and they're some of my favourite. Even the Alaceus niger, the garden ant, I had a colony of 600 of the red ones, the stingy ones, the Mimicarubras, and about 100 Alaceus nigers got out of their setup overnight in the store, and they went into the rubra's nest and decimated the entire colony. And since then, I've had a lot of respect for this little native ant that's underrated. I mean, Ants England has got a Alaceus niger colony in its thousands. That would destroy any other species she keeps, no question. They're ferocious, and for that reason, I've started to really like them.
Dave's little beast is where can we get some good size ant enclosures?
Good size. What size is good? Sid's got loads.
I think Happy Ant has just put Wakooshi's website in, Dave. If you could have a click on that, have a look round. Dave's got a leaf cutter colony.
Ah, right. So he probably wants enclosures for that, does he?
I would have thought if you can't see what you're after on the website, drop an email anyway. And then Callum's just put Antics in as well as.
Ninoturu, yeah, that's gonna. They do though, right? They're crazy. They get out.
Just crop that. Back up. There we go. What? I'll rephrase that, Jamie. I think is there an ant species that could live in extremely high humidity above a fish tank?
Yeah. The highest humidity things really would be leaf cutters. They need near 100%. I've got marauder ants from Asia, Carabara diversa. They love high humidity. There's quite a few species out there that, Myrmicarubra, as Antimatters has just put, they need high humidity. So there's plenty of ants out there, and they'd all benefit from the heat from the fish tank if it's tropical too.
I mean, I went to a garden centre, and they've got leaf cutters, and they were using a big old, the big cylindrical fish tanks.
Yeah.
They had one of those, must have been about 5 foot tall, all your leaves in there and everything else, and then they had, say, about a 3-inch clear hose going around the pet side of the garden centre.
Yeah.
And what shocked me was the size of the leaves that the ants were cutting off and actually carrying.
Yeah.
Because I know you see it in documentaries, but you kind of look at it and you watch it and you kind of think, that's not real. And then when you actually see a tiny little ant carrying something about 5-6 times its size,
it's crazy, isn't it? And some of them even have smaller ants on the leaves as they're walking. They're hitchhikers too. But like even here in Sid's video, going up a vertical wall.
I'll just work that on
with a massive leaf in its mouth.
Hey, look at the size of the one that one's got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they measure it by the size of their body.
Yeah. So you can see, if you look at that one cutting in the middle, he's using his back leg as a guide. It's kind of how they cut these half circles. They almost use themselves like a measuring tool, and it's also designed so if they use their body as a guide, it stops them being lazy, and it stops big ants cutting small pieces. So it's designed to maximize their efficiency. But that being said, they're also very intelligent, and they also know that the hole they need to get it through has a certain, that is not the highest tube or the biggest tube used. So they're smart, and they cut only big enough that will fit in that tube. But they could do bigger.
Are you telling me that if you put a tiny little hole in, that they would cut the leaf before they get into that hole?
Yeah, or they would create a gathering by the hole with the bigger leaves and then cut them down to the right size to move them through, yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Because that literally just displays intelligence.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. They well, I guess they need it, don't they? It's their life. Oh, here we are, yeah. That's them as they start to process them.
And how long does it take for... Oh, wow. That is super cool. So what are they all doing now? They're just breaking that leaf down into even smaller bits to...
Yeah, they're chewing it down, they're sucking some sugars from it, and then as it breaks down into tiny chunks, they pick the white fluff that you see on the fungus there. It's like strands, and they'll pick that away and wrap it around the tiny segment of leaf that they create, so that the fungus itself can feed off the leaf and grow more white fluff to move on to new stuff.
Do you find that fungus anywhere else other than in ant colonies?
No. The only place in nature this fungus exists is in ant colonies. So when a queen has a mating flight, she has a little pellet pouch. She'll take a tiny piece of this fungus with her when she flies, and when she lands, she's got the fungus then to start her own. But yeah, they also use an antibacterial to keep this fungus clean and free from disease. And the only place in nature that antibacterial is found is also in a leafcutter nest. It's just farming and evolution at its finest with leafcutters.
You've just took my interest for ants even higher.
You need some leafcutters, do you, Scott?
Yes.
We can sort you out, lads.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, it is frightfully. With an atta species that can grow to like 5-8 million strong, and the queen will be laying 30,000 eggs a day, and they need feeding.
Wow.
So the bigger the fungus, the more life it can sustain, and the less that can go wrong, really. But yeah, you see them here. Look, they're just like licking it clean, and then they'll chew it down a bit and break it off into smaller pieces.
And Holmesy's just asked, what temperature are these guys kept at?
24 to 25 degrees. Everyone's different. I think you keep yours less, you said. Is he there?
It depends. The range, yeah. I'd say it varies between 21 and 29, depending on the time of year. The room generally fluctuates, but it's usually most of the time it's about 24.
Anton's just dropped an interesting question. How do you do maintenance in the enclosures, or do you actually need to do any?
You don't really need to. They have a waste chamber. You create, like a tank where they take their waste out for you and they dump it in there. So you'd need to clean that, and any leaves in the feeding side that they don't eat, you can take away. But it's not really much maintenance, cleaning wise, unless they break out. You need to keep on top of barriers. In our store, we have an open setup, and we had a situation a few weeks back where I went into work one day, and across the road I could see glistening leaves. They're all the way from our building up past the Chinese, and they'd broken out. They'd come through the building under the front door, and they were up the road clearing every weed from us to Aldi. And you could just see the glistening leaves. So yeah, the biggest maintenance really in that case is keeping on top of a barrier, because if they get out, you've got tens of thousands out.
I'm still in shock that they'll use a certain area as a toilet that you can just then remove and then whack.
If you think about it, this fungus is their life. It's everything they've got. It's their food source. It's everything. If that got infected with dirt, it would destroy a whole colony. So they have to keep their waste somewhere. And like Sid was saying earlier, when the zinc in the jaws get too blunt to do anything with, there's a waste pile there. So when the zinc in the jaws get too blunt that they can't cut leaves anymore, what they'll then do is they get relegated down to this waste chamber. And the ants that are working on that waste chamber, they're never allowed back into the nest, because the colony can't risk fungus going back in. It can't risk waste, or disease going back in. So occasionally you'll see scuffles where one of these workers wants to go back into the nest, and they'll stop them at their own lives. They'll fight, they'll kill them. Once you're relegated to the waste chamber, you're not allowed back out.
I was just about to say, how do you know that they don't get through? But you answered that question in that statement.
Yeah, they know.
Again.
They know they're not supposed to be there. Obviously, the confusion, I think, happens when the ants that take the waste to the chamber sometimes get too mangled up in it. They become scented with the waste, and then they're not allowed to leave again. So, they can't risk any disease getting back to the fungus at all.
So, I don't know if you call it the elephant in the room or the grey area. What happens when your colony gets too big for your enclosure and you can't increase your enclosure size? How do you call your workers?
Well, obviously we wouldn't advocate culling any. I guess as long as your barriers and it's escape proof, you could start reducing the amount of food. And it would be supply and demand, because if they couldn't feed as big a fungus, they'd let it get smaller, and then the queen would lay less eggs to compensate for the smaller size fungus. Really though, the only, it depends which species you have. A species like Acromyrmex would get to about 20,000 workers. If you've got Atta that's growing into the millions, there's not many private collectors with these massive colonies. They're mainly for zoos and places like that. And of course, it doesn't matter how big they get there. But
what's the biggest colony that you've both seen?
I think one of them.
Yeah, well, it would be my Atta colony. My leafcutter colony is the biggest I own.
He's got his leaf cutters up at 32, and he says they're breeding like crazy.
Oh wow, 32. That's way hotter than I would. What species have you got, Dave?
That was, I think that was during the heat wave, Dave. He's got one of the leaf cutters. Let's see if we just drop that into chat which one it is. So will all ant species will they all create an area where their waste goes like this, or is it just specifically for leaf cutters?
No, they will all have ways of dealing with their waste. Like a Myrmica rubra will, they throw it outside the nest by a couple of meters to dissuade predators and stop infection get into the brood and all of the new larvae. Mesibarbarus, when I was on the boat and I was in Portugal, there was barbarus nests everywhere. Is someone breathing? Is that me?
No, it's when Sid moves the camera.
Oh right. Yeah. So when you've got Mesibarbarus, they seem to just ditch all of their casings directly outside the entrance of the nest. They're really messy, but they'll all have ways of dealing with waste. Most of the time they'll throw it in the outworld and you can just pick it out. Look at them struggling with that leaf and another one just climbs on top.
No, it won't let me. That's better. You can see Richard a bit better now.
Oh, right.
They are absolutely incredible. Yeah, Landscapes is in the chat. Hi, Ryan.
Here he is. Hello, Ryan.
He's been on live a little while ago. We've had him on twice just to show his setups off.
Oh, they're awesome, and that guy can build.
Another level, yeah. The one in the tank, with the two mountains. Is it trapjaw ants he's got in that one?
Yeah, they're awesome species.
So just going back to the beginner one, would you recommend the Mesibarbarus? That's the European harvest ant. Is it the biggest harvest ant as well, isn't it? If I remember right.
Only in Europe. But yeah, definitely, for people in your community that are used to maintaining temperatures and keeping exotic things, there'd be no harm in them starting with something like that. Obviously, they understand the concept that they can't release things if they get too much, and yeah, for a complete beginner, you would usually advise something native because they're very forgiving. A Lasius niger colony, it takes a lot to kill one of those, even on accident. But for people in your community, they could probably go a little bit more exotic if they needed to, because they're used to that sort of care.
I think a lot of us that have quite a few tarantulas tend to keep them in a room around 26, 27 degrees. So with those temperatures in mind, is there any ant that you would recommend that would kind of thrive around, well, say between 26 to 28?
Well, around 26 is pretty much the sweet spot for most stuff, if you want it to grow fast. Let's see. Did somebody ask where I get my leaves? I've had to make a greenhouse, and I grow plants for the winter.
Is that what you do through the winter? Have them in a greenhouse, or do you have them grown inside? Or
so we have a greenhouse outside, and then the drug tents. We set one of those up inside the building and keep it.
Grow tents with the.
Yeah, that's it. The black ones. So we set one of those up in the winter inside the building, so we can keep growing leaves when the trees don't have any. But we get deliveries of colonies, regularly. Only today we had 50 colonies delivered. So those are going to need a lot of food. And my Atta colony, my Atta Mexicana colony in the store, that's consuming about 1 kilo of leaves a day. So yeah, they really need to.
A day?
Yeah, about that at the moment. Yeah.
Cheers, PJ.
A fully grown colony will eat about 5 kilos a day.
Wow. That is
Only of Atta, that's 5 million workers though. That's a lot of ants and a lot of fungus. Yeah, please at the door. I'm growing ant leaves. They've never come in yet, and you can see it from if you're walking on the street outside the shop and you look up in the windows. You see these grow tents, and they're glowing at night. And we've never had the police there yet.
Well, I suppose if you're at home, you could literally get like a stick insect mesh enclosure and put an LED light down onto a leafy plant, and away you go.
Yeah, you really could. But then, how much would they eat?
One thing to bear in mind is there is ways of doing this much easier as well. I mean, don't let sort of 1 kilo of leaves sort of put people off getting these if they're interested in them.
Yeah,
this colony on camera now is almost a year old. So when people are talking about they grow to 5 million workers, I've had an Atta colony which I got from Rich for what's it now, a year and a half?
Year and a half, yeah.
And it's very well maintained. Yeah, it's grown massively in numbers, but it's still just sat here on my desk in 2 pods and the same kind of outworld these ones are in. And these acro are also about a year old now, and they're very manageable. And the one thing to bear in mind is just if you control their feeding, you will control their population. Yeah. So if you don't do crazy things like throw loads of leaves in with them, they will grow at a very slow and steady rate. Yeah. So, but in my case, I want to observe them, study them, use them for product testing. So I don't want them to grow at a tremendous rate. One prime example, if you follow Antollifer, you can see the prime example of his colony is half a year younger than mine. And he is probably 5 times larger. So if you feed them lots, they will grow fast. But if you control the feeding, you saw the amount of leaves at the beginning of the stream. I probably give them that every 2 days, 3 days sometimes. So it's enough to keep the fungus maintained. And they tend to understand that there's a limited amount of food, and they will produce brood and eggs accordingly. So yes, they will always continue to grow. But you're talking that's a 10-year down the line SID problem. I don't think these will be unmanageable for the next few years, hopefully. So yeah, don't let it put you off thinking that, oh my God, you're going to buy them, and then in a year's time you're going to have to be feeding 1 kilo of leaves. And there are very easy ways and very easy options of leaves to get hold of. One of the easiest year-round options is privet. It's a very common, the same stuff for stick insects. It's very common in a lot of gardens. It's almost everywhere. I get mine locally from, there's various walkways, pathways and things where it's the hedges along there. And the ants absolutely love it. That's what they're eating now, and just bramble. So it's and bramble is pretty much widely available from like March till around, well, even now, so probably up until November. So a few months you don't have bramble maybe, or the quality's poor, but they're not that fussy. So yeah, finding food is not an issue. You can get it in abundance, but yeah, they don't need as much as people think, and they don't have to grow as quickly as people think.
Cheers, Mark. He's just put like, share and subscribe. Cheers, dude. So when you're out collecting the leaves, you bring them home. Do you guys wash them before they go into the colony, or?
I do. I don't know what Sid does, but I give them a quick swill.
I don't. No, I just harvest them from outside. And one thing actually, if you want to be lazy, and let's say you don't want to go out every every few days, what you can do, if you take like a grip seal bag, the sort of thing that you keep sandwiches in, but like the big versions of them, what I'll do is I'll go out and gather a load of leaves. If you seal them in there, they stay fresh for a week. So technically, you could get away with going out 3-4 times a month. And you've got plenty fresh leaves to give them. And the nice thing is that's all they really need. That's it. They're so easy to look after.
It's a great excuse for going out for a walk as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's leaf hunting.
And you just keep walking then because you see leaves and you think, oh, they're quite cool. Look at those down there. Grass is always greener. It's the same with leaves. You end up walking half a mile.
Could you possibly...
Well, I mean, me and Richard even spoke about this. And we've even said that since we've got into leaf cutters, we've actually become horticulturists. We actually know so much more about plants, different species and things. Like I just thought there was one bramble. I just thought there's just one type of blackberry plant, and that was the only bramble.
They've even got a favorite type of dandelion.
And it turns out there's like 27 different. Yeah, there's you have to try, because I tried bramble the first time with them, and they weren't interested, and then I just tried a bush on the other side of the garden, and they absolutely loved it. And when I scanned it with these leaf, if you get these, one of the great things you can do, there's apps on the iPhone, take a leaf and it'll tell you exactly what subspecies it is, and then you can find out what works well. But yeah, there's different types of bramble leaves that they won't touch, so you always got to keep trying.
That surprised me to find out there's 27 different species of bramble, because again, I'm like you, I thought there'd be one and that was it.
Yeah, they have their favourites, and it's amazing how far you go to find it. Like my atta colony, not everyone's the same. I can get away with feeding them a lot of dandelion leaves. They love them, but they only like the triangle pointy ones. They don't like the curved leaf ones. So yeah, they have their favourites. They can be fussy, but then mine eat a lot of Rice Krispies too, so they're easy to obtain in the winter.
Have you got any other species there, Sid, as well?
Oh, he's got heaps. Show him the Venators.
Yeah.
Have you got the world famous bullet ants?
Okay. All right. 1 minute.
He's got jumping ants. Yeah. They're pretty cool. Yeah, Rice Krispies, Jenna. They I feed them Rice Krispies as a little treat, and they take them back, they crush them down, and they feed it to the fungus. It doesn't do it any harm. They also take oats, almonds. In the winter, when you're really desperate, you can put in broccoli, and they'll just demolish a broccoli or a cabbage.
That's incredible. So if you were stuck in the wind, you could put a cabbage in or broccoli, and away you go.
And they'll cut it, yeah.
Are these the enclosures that you've designed yourself and built it?
These are Sid's nests, they are. He makes these.
Look at the size of them.
So look at their eyes. They don't navigate so much with pheromones. They use a lot of their own eyesight to navigate and memory. But these guys, Sid will tell you about them now, but these guys are interesting because they don't kill their prey straight away usually. What they'll do is they'll inject it and paralyze it, and then they'll keep it alive until they're ready to feed it to the larvae that are sitting just there, wiggling around waiting for food.
Is that literally because it reduces all that bad bacteria and what have you again?
Yeah, well, it's not going to rot or anything, and it stays fresh for the larvae. It's called a living larder, where it's paralyzed. Like a parasitic wasp would just make their prey paralyzed and then lay eggs in it. Well, these sort of do that, but for a food reason, for these larvae sitting just here, wiggling around.
Vivian's asked if there was a drawers at the front.
Yes.
And then Anton said, did that one have wings?
Yeah, it's an elate.
Hey, Derek.
Yeah, they're cool. They're like... the larvae do freak me out with these.
I mean, I
really
could try feeding them.
They only had feed Friday. They may not take it, might they?
Dave says if these were as big as us, we'd be in
Well,
so
I
many
actually fed them this morning.
Oh, did you?
I think if ants were the same size as humans, Dave, the human race wouldn't exist.
I don't think there'd be enough space on the planet for the amount of ants that there would be. Well, in reality, if ants were like 20% of a human size, we'd all be screwed, wouldn't we?
Oh, definitely. I mean, they are stunning.
These are pretty, really pretty, and they look at you and they watch you. Look, they know what's going on. They can see him.
So they actually recognise when you're close to them.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, these ones have incredibly good vision. I mean, they rely on they're kind of some of the few ants that rely on solo hunting. So if I put a cricket in the outworld, they will stalk it like a lion stalks a deer. So they do not just run up it. You know, they don't have senseless minds. What they will do is they will stalk prey, and they somehow have the ability to know where the head of the prey is. So they will sneak up behind it or approach it from the back. And what they do is they do like cats do, where they do that wiggle. Now that is a way of them judging depth. So they will shake their tails, gauge the depth, sort of a 3D distance, and they then have the ability to jump about 8 times the length of their body, and just in the blink of an eye, they'll manage to get those massive jaws to basically clamp onto a leg or a back or a side or a soft part. And then what they do is the tail comes underneath and then basically stings and paralyzes the prey. They'll then drag that prey into the nest. And what they actually do is they'll use those. You see, they've got this almost at the base of their jaws. This is almost like a triangle part. Let me move the camera.
It's like a barb, isn't it?
Try to find a better camera angle. Might be better. So they'll use that. Is in essence they use it almost like a pair of cutters. So they will crush and cut into the exoskeleton, and that enables the larvae to kind of get in, and those little long necks they have go into the carcass, and they'll feed from within. And if they have prey that they know, let's say all the larvae are being fed and they're not hungry, that they keep the prey alive. So it's like paralyzed, and it can be like that for days. But that way it keeps the prey fresh without starting to deteriorate. And then when they're needed, they drag them in, and then they break them up and they feed them to these little chubby larvae here. But very interesting because they most ants are typically blind and rely on vibrations, but these rely on vision, which is what makes them quite different from a lot of other ants.
I think the fact that they stalk the prey now, apart from that one, I suppose, again, is another sign of like quite high intelligence, because that's energy saving as well, isn't it? Instead of just seeing the prey and going running after it, if they're stalking and they're actually thinking about that prey,
it's calculated, isn't it? It's
exactly.
It's not random or sporadic. It's engineered to be the most efficient way of taking down. And these will take down like a fully grown cricket, no problem, in seconds.
Do they work together to do that, or is it just?
I would imagine it's what's actually really interesting with these. They're a bit like if you've ever seen the Predator movies, where they have like an honor system. What I found with these, if one worker is actually trying to take down a worker, the others will just watch.
Yeah,
they often won't get involved and try and take it down as well. They're almost like, look, this is my kill, this is my my prize, and the others will just sit back and watch. You think that they hop in and all help out, but they're very unusual. when I've observed them, they seem to just have this. You know, they could be right in the nest. The cricket could come directly in the nest, and you'll see that it will just be one on one, and they tend to not really get involved. I mean, I'll try putting a cricket in and see if I can get some to show you the sort of hunting
see if you
technique
can
if
see
it
them.
happens.
Are these ones venomous?
Yes. Well, it's more of a neurotoxin than anything. But yeah, they do have a stinger, and they will cause you some pain.
And do they molt when they get bigger, or do they just grow like us? Or
No, so the molting in effect is happening now as larvae, and then they'll pupate into those little cocoons, and then when they come out of there, that's the biggest they will ever be. That's their size. They don't get any bigger once they're born.
so they come out of the cocoons, full adult size, and that's it. Away they go.
They're fully matured in there. They'll come out very pale, and the exoskeleton needs a day to harden, but they will be the size they are now.
Wow. And is that the waste at the top chamber, is it again?
That looks like dirt that they've put there. It looks like they've fashioned an entrance to the nest on the left.
What's been like the most surprising thing that you've witnessed with ants that when you started keeping you didn't kind of expect to see?
Oh, so that's quite easy for me. I've got Carabara diversa, the marauder ants, and they're the tiniest little workers, 2 millimeters tops. But they've got super majors that grow to near on 20 mil. But the most interesting trait I think I've seen is when they were taking down. I had put in a cricket and it's still twitching and things. And they knew this, and they knew the cricket's jaws could cause them harm, so they were running around the outworld picking up stones and holding it by the mouth, and the cricket was biting onto the stones. And then that was while the rest of them were weighing it down with the rest of the stones. And it was such an interesting behaviour that I didn't think it was possible for them to collectively recognise that threat and know the way to avert it. But the ants do all sorts of things. I've got one species of ant that is parasitic. She founds a nest by raiding another. Oh, here we are. We might see a feed. You'll see one of them stalking it now. See, look, she's slow. She's not. She knows it's there. She's watching it. But yeah, this species of ant, it lives alongside a queen whose colony it steals right from under her. There's so many species of ant that every one has got its own quirk, and that's why keepers are addicted, and they keep so many different species because each one has. Oh, there we go.
Wow, that was some speed. That was some speed. That was fast. That surprised me a lot.
And the cricket's dispatched.
So it is 9 PM. So the chat will now go. No doubt.
Is this where we call you a wanker, Scott?
You've just seen that from Lupang's. Just put that. Afghan, put that. And Ellie Bride.
Look, Moist O'Clock. There we go.
Even got. If you can see this. This is what one of the subscribers actually 3D printed. We've got the ginger beard, we've got the W, then you've got the anchor sign. Awesome.
Brilliant. Now he's on the fake beard Smurf.
Fake beard Smurf as well, yeah, because the hair went blue for autism charity, and I think it was Michael and Ellie that said the beard was fake and I glue it on originally. Hey, Kathy.
Yeah, sorry. It's hard keeping focus on. They're hard to film.
They are. I know. Just before we go any further, if you've got any children watching, now is the time to remove them if they hear swearing or adult conversation. That this is basically just a disclaimer. So all that goes on from now on. And it also recognised when it struck, it went from the back as well. It didn't go for the front.
Yeah, and it went straight into the soft tissue. It knew exactly what it was doing.
Yes,
because the crickets bite, and they bite us.
Oh, yeah, look, she's going in again to make sure.
So their venom's in the
you
tail.
can see here.
Yeah, the stinger's in the tail.
They're almost observing. They're not actually claiming it. It's kind of the same one that took it is the only one who's like just observe.
Yeah, it was her kill. Look, everyone else is just
doing
watching.
The hunting.
She's like crouching over it, isn't it?
Wild. It's much more interesting. What they'll be doing now is they'll be waiting for it to basically be fully paralysed, and then they will drag it into the nest. And depending on how hungry, I mean, there's a lot of larvae in there at the moment, so the likelihood is they'll drag that, and they'll start sort of dishing it out to the larvae. And what they'll do is they do things like they break little bits of legs off and things, and they put them on the belly of the larvae they use the belly of the larvae like a feeding dish. And then the head curls round and starts eating off it.
These are absolutely incredible.
These at the shows are very popular with
You see what I mean? It's
people in your hobby because they're brutal. they're anything that stings or bites or is nasty. People seem to love them there.
Yes, they are amazing. Do you keep these in stock, Rich?
Yeah.
How much are those?
I think they're about £60, something like that. Let's have a look. There's so many on there, I can't remember the prices. Harpignathos.
You can see now what they're doing is their sting is almost like it's extremely thin needle and it's very long, and they'll basically look for any of the soft parts, usually in the limbs of the joints and things, and what they're basically just doing, it's almost like a kind of a paralyzing, and they'll try and get it in as many parts along the body, because that cricket now will be completely paralyzed. So if the larvae aren't hungry, what they'll usually do is just store it somewhere. If they are hungry, well, these guys will drag it in and do their thing.
They are absolutely gorgeous.
So saying they're out of stock, but I'm pretty sure I've got some there. I'm sure I saw some today. I just haven't done the website. But for up to 10 workers, they're £65, $64.99.
So
they're
that's
from
the
Asia.
queen and the workers.
Queen and some workers, yeah.
And for anybody in the tarantula hobby that's thinking, that might be expensive, we pay more than that for our spiders by a long shot.
But the thing with spiders too is a lot of the time they can be bred, right? You can breed them in captivity and you can purchase them that way. With an ant, that's only an inbreeding species of ant you can do that. With most species like this, you're waiting on nuptial flight, so you have to physically catch a queen and raise a colony. And that process means you're always importing from overseas. It's more expensive. You have to be there on the right day at the right time to be able to catch them. So all of that adds to the cost of ants. So I get, compared to people that keep like mantis and things like that, they can feel expensive initially, but when you realise why, it isn't so bad.
Because these are absolutely
you like these, don't you?
I do, yeah.
You really like these.
I do, yeah.
I had a feeling, that's why I thought I'd put these on camera, because it's species like this, which basically have turned me. I mean, these actually surprisingly were one of the very first ants I started to keep. Not through necessary choice, but this is actually a colony made up of 7 or 8 failing, like, colonies that arrived to sell but came in very poor condition, and I put a few of the workers together. It's not always possible, but in this case they all went together fine. But after seeing these, I'm used to mantis. I'm used to seeing that like excitement, and I mean, unfortunately, in this scenario, that was a very quick kill. There was not really any stalking involved, and because it's inside the nest, because I put the cricket to go, to walk inside the nest. When they go out hunting in the outworld, you see them doing more of the predatory stalking. You see them, hunted down for about a minute or so, and you can see them kind of studying the size of the prey, what defenses, you can just see them studying it. And that's quite interesting. But then all this, there's just so much depth. Mantis, like I love mantis, don't get me wrong, I love them. But the lifespan is one of the downsides I found with them. And the nice thing with these, they last for many, many years. They can be obviously as almost as long living as tarantulas in some cases. But
25 years.
Just all the different mechanics. It's not just feed them. It's feed. Yeah, they can. Some of them, the longest Niger captivity colony, I think was like 28 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Rich?
something
24?
like that. 28.
It was quite a long time.
Yeah.
It ranges from like anything from 2 years to 3, 4, 5 on average, and then can go up to sort of longer. But I don't think the hobby's been going long enough for really people who've got that much data. But it's not something that they're like mantis, where they typically last about a year and then they're kind of finished. But with these, just seeing the feeding, then the psychology of what they do with the food, and then what they do with the larvae, and then the progression of the larvae, and then how the colony grows and how they change depending on the size of the colony. It was just all those types of things which just pulled me more and more away from spiders and mantis. Because it's the depth of this when you start keeping ants like these in particular.
They are beautiful. So if you guys, this is what Callum put in Wakooshi. So Ants England gets you 10% off at Wakooshi. Sid, don't you do the fruit fly ingredients as well? If I remember right.
I used to, yeah, I did used to do fruit fly stuff, but it became very difficult to, as things have got busier with the ants and things, it's became very difficult to keep on top of maintaining cultures, because I kind of had to weigh up the overall cost to. I was finding that I was selling cultures for every culture I made, and it became not very worthwhile, and not to mention the amount of time and effort it was taking. So it may come back, but at the moment I stopped the fruit fly culture. I stopped live foods in general, just to step back and focus fully on kind of the development side and research of ant keeping and housing and things.
Cricket's just been kidnapped. A Daymar moment, yeah, definitely.
Are they taking it in, Sid? Yeah.
Will they take it inside and dissect it inside them?
I think they're in the process now of taking it in.
I see a leg on a head.
There it is, yeah.
There it is.
Thank you.
I mean, I only fed them today, so but there is a lot of larvae, so yeah, they're pretty chubby little things.
It's almost like they're discussing dinner.
Yeah.
Literally like they stood there chatting. Going on, you want a red wine with this? No, white.
What meal they should? We've got some beef. What should we make tonight?
You can have the leg. I had the leg like yesterday, Mum. I want the head now. They are an unusual shaped ant as well, aren't they?
Really primitive, aren't they?
Gorgeous.
If you pictured an ant in the dinosaur era, that would be it.
Deciding how they'll cook it up, says Ryan. After watching the Vikings, this feels like a good sacrifice as a home do. How many different species have you got like to hand, Sid?
All right, I'm back. Sorry, was that a question for me? Or?
He said, how many species have you got to hand, he said.
Oh, quite a few.
I'm just thinking about time. I could spend like a fair few hours staring at these guys.
See, and everybody thinks ants are just the same, and then when you start looking at them, they're actually pretty diverse and cool.
Well, you wouldn't think it, would you? You'd think there's UK species, you'd think there's leaf cutters, and that's it. Because obviously the UK species are what we see growing up as children and all the rest of it. What we see is our parents trying to get rid of in the garden, and then they obviously on natural documentaries you always see those leaf cutters. So never in a million years would I expect to be seeing something like these guys. That camera you got there.
This is the sort of stuff I was saying about hopefully during this stream. It's just an iPhone with a macro lens.
They just look so relaxed, don't they?
They're awesome. Just out of curiosity, anybody in chat, is anybody that's not kept ants before now thinking about keeping them thanks to Sid and Richard? I know the home zoo's up there, Gemma's there as well. Golden Weaver ants are cool, says Lou Pang. The way they make their nests are amazing.
They are awesome. I just can't keep them alive. I've tried to found colonies of them a few times and I just can't. I'm doing something wrong.
Can you ship ants around Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because Osman is Dutch.
Yeah.
I knew this was a bad idea. I know, Gemma, I know.
And once you start, there's so many. I guess it's like with tarantulas, isn't it? Look at all the setups behind you of all the things you keep. You start with one and you open a tin of worms.
I started with two tarantulas, got nearly 300 now.
Jeez.
So when it comes to ants, I've got to think I've probably got room for 2 colonies. Do you know what I mean?
The colonies can get big, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, with us guys as well, we've got. I mean, with the tarantulas, there's a forced communal which kind of works, which is Balfouri, and that's it. So to have something like ants where you have actually got a communal living together, and they're constantly active, could be pretty impressive, especially when all the spiders are hiding away. These guys are going to be out wandering around. What's the TM that says? Do they have a sleep cycle?
They sleep for a few seconds, a few times a day.
Wish I could get away with that.
So if I can't remember exactly, I think they can sleep for up to like 8 seconds, 2 or 3 times a day, where they just kind of like go into just as they are. They don't lie down and tuck in under the duvet or anything, but they'll just stop and sleep. I think I'm going to Google it though. Let me fact check myself.
No problem, Lewis.
To be honest though, you wouldn't really notice it though, would you?
No.
Anyway, because they're not doing exactly the same couple of seconds. I mean, I can't say I'd ever noticed a downtime. One thing to bear in mind though, that there are, if you're looking at keeping sort of ants that may be native to Europe, some ants do hibernate, which I think is also what's possibly stunted the hobby in some ways, because the exotics of kind of what has made it year-round exciting. If you do keep natives like the stinging ants, the red stinging ants, or the black ones from the garden, and a lot of the European ones, they technically need to go into a hibernation period, often from around middle to late October until around March. So you need to keep them in a very cold room. Some people keep them in the fridge, but basically the colony almost goes into an element of hibernation where you need to just keep them cold. They almost do nothing in that period. So that's one of the things which I think has put a lot of people off some of the European ants. But for most of tropical and exotic types like these, they're year-round like this.
Now I'm going to be addicted to ants as well, says the home zoo. Gemma says, yes, I agree and blame Scott's inverts. It's not just you guys that are looking. I mean, I won a 3-queen colony and it crashed. And I spoke at length with Callum to kind of the ins and outs to why it happened and all the rest of it. I think what we should have done is just kept it as 3 individual colonies. And we would have been all right. What I didn't know much at the time. But what is really, really good, I popped on Wakooshi's website earlier. And for anybody that's kind of going, well, how about if I get stuck? How can I fire questions at people and all the rest of it? There's a link to a Discord chat, which is going to have a lot of ant people in there. So you'll probably get round-the-clock support if you do decide on getting an ant colony, which I thought was pretty cool.
There is a lot of ant keeping discords, and the community is really good for that. So it's one of the reasons why I kind of linked the Discord to the website, because it is, it's one of those things, especially for beginners, because they are a very unusual pet to keep, and there is very mixed information out there and a lot of different stuff, and that's why the community tends to be more educated faster than a lot of websites will kind of display information. So that's a great thing. I mean, the basics of ant keeping is actually quite simple, and now there are setups and things that make it even easier. You can get into it really low cost. You could get into ant keeping with a setup and ants for like sub £30. Rich, you do a setup, you do a kit for like £30, which has got setup, sugars, food, and everything you need to get started. So it's a low cost hobby to get into, but obviously the world's your oyster with how deep you want to delve into it.
So, I mean, I know the ones on screen aren't exactly the cheapest, but if I wanted to purchase the ones on screen now, what setup would be best to buy for them?
One of six.
Well, actually, the interesting thing, and one of the downsides. Well, actually, I mean, I'd say I've got setups that will work with them. This is actually a prototype, but I mean, what I'm trying to do is actually work on setups that are specific to every single species, or the vast majority of them, because there are ant nests out there, but they don't work, unfortunately, with all ants. So some people have some success with them, but sometimes there's still a bit of DIY required. Even this setup here, because these ants in the wild, they make their nests in clay banks, so sort of on sort of rising banks on the sides of roads and things. And their ground is very wet, very moist, and they like to sculpt the chambers out of clay. So that's actually what they've done, is they've actually taken the gravel from the outworld, dragged it into the nest, and this was actually originally like this side. I'll show you.
You could literally go full naturalistic with those and and then go for excavator clay, maybe.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that would work. You could even make their chamber for them, I guess, with a test tube and excavator clay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, and natural setups work very well for ants. Antscape's Ryan has shown it. very well. You know, it is possible, but sometimes getting, you know, he's tried twice with harp eggs, but I think he's got the setup's not quite right because he didn't understand that they needed to go into the clay bank, so he was doing more tropical, and it didn't pan out. So that's I think why a lot of people sometimes have unfortunate things happen, like queens die. It's because maybe not their natural habitats were mimicked quite exactly right. You know, it's the same with tarantulas. You know, you need to get the parameters right. And with ants, they're very tolerant. These ones in particular are not very tolerant of the wrong settings, so they do very much need that kind of clay. And they like they did in the other chamber, they've sculpted that to exactly how they would in the wild. They've plastered all the walls, they've sealed all the cracks. They've even adjusted and made the entrance to that chamber smaller by sticking the clay into a smaller. So, you know, there's still a little element of DIY required for some of the more exotic species, and that's why I'm really working on even these in particular. They're going into a prototype for a specific nest just for them.
Sorry.
Anton asked if you could point the queen out.
Their top left. Well, just the one touching the cricket now on the left-hand side.
There's actually 7.
Oh, there's more than one, is there? She's a queen though, right?
There's actually 7 in this colony. Yeah.
How do you know she's a queen?
I can locate the actual full queen.
Oh yeah, there's
How
another
do you know
one.
that was a queen? What's the differences between her and the rest of the colony?
So if you see her torso,
if you look on their backs, you'll see that they have these almost like scars
on the sides.
Let me just move the camera, and then you probably see the focus. So
there, see?
There,
yeah,
a little shiny scar.
Bear with me. I'll move the camera.
That's where her wings once were, and she ripped them off after mating.
Wow.
most species is really easy to see the queen because they're bigger and they look different. But with something like this, where they're very, very similar, there you can see the wing scars. That's what you're looking for.
These are very impressive species. Have you got any other setups that you can walk us through, Sid?
All right, give me a sec.
I could sit and look at this colony forever and a day.
They're nice, right?
Oh,
yeah. And this is the problem in the store. You never do any work because you just watch the ants.
Oh. Steve says he's been struggling to find the wing scars on his Temnothorax queen.
A Temno will be slightly bigger than the rest. The queen should be quite noticeable. If you email me over some pictures or do it on the Discord, I'll have a look and see if I can spot her.
There you go, Steve. Send Antics an email or go to. Have you got a link to the Discord on your website as well?
I've got a page of all the socials somewhere. I'll socials there.
Hey Phil. Oh wow, that's impressive.
These are harvesters. Mesobarbus.
They're very, very active. I mean, I know you designed these setups, but for me, looking at it, it just looks very simple, very easy to keep. Doesn't look like mind-blowingly complicated to set up or anything like that.
It's really, really easy, low maintenance way of doing it. These are
So,
really popular.
Put it into perspective with these setups. This colony here was actually one of the colonies that I used for testing, and because there was a big thing in the hobby about they need to have the light blocked, otherwise it stresses the queens out, yada 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 yada. And in some cases, okay, it may make them calmer, it may make them feel more settled. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. So when I was developing this sort of Saturn Nest Outworld system, I kind of thought, well, look, I'm gonna hit this question hit me a lot here. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to test the one that they say, because people say that these ants absolutely have to have black light blockers and everything, and clear as day, it doesn't need it. It's absolutely not essential. It's proven here, you know, that they can. I'm not saying it wouldn't be beneficial, but it's not required. But this setup, I set this up, filled the tube up with water, I added some seeds, and this setup was not touched for about 4 months. I didn't need to feed them, I didn't need to water them, I didn't do a single thing with them. So it's incredibly low maintenance with these particular ants, because they don't need feeding once a week. They crush up the seeds, they make a kind of like an ant bread. So they take the water, they take what they get from the seeds, and they make bread from it, and that's what they eat and get their protein and feed to the larvae and things. So the queen's down the end of the very bottom tube there. You may be able to see her down the very end. But yeah, as a result of that, you just give them some seeds, and you can just enjoy watching them. And like I said, I think I've only changed the tubes on these in a year about 3 times, and I think I've given them seeds maybe 3-4 times in that year. So incredibly low maintenance, and I haven't even cleaned the thing out. You can see I haven't even cleaned out. A couple of times I picked a few bits of cotton out. But generally, you know, it's very easy to look after.
That's incredible. I mean, the look. I mean, that really does look like a modern, clean cell. That is cool, man. Again, Antics and Wakooshi's links are both in the description. And if I could just get one of the moderators to drop their links into the chat as well, that would be brilliant.
Oh, there's the queen there, look, bottom tube, left-hand side. You just saw her. There. So in this species, she's much bigger, and she's easy to see. Hello, Cricket.
What type of ant are those, Rich? Cricket ant.
yeah, cricket ant. Very, very rare. £100 each. You'd be fine.
Just for a workie, you don't want to know the cost of the queen.
yeah. I wouldn't even salt you quoting the queen.
Oh wow.
So they're polymorphic, these are. They have big majors that can crush the seeds, and then little workers to do more delicate tasks like caring for brood. But you see the size differences between them. I've got my Arenarius here, but I don't think a webcam will see them very close, will it? Would it?
I have no idea.
I can try.
Are these ones venomous as well, or is it?
No. They just bite.
What's their defense mechanism? Is it if a predator comes, they just literally swarm and bite?
Does that show? No, not really.
Yeah, numbers probably their defense.
No, too much light.
It'll probably be the focus rate. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Getting macro focus.
Have you also got the bullet ants in stock?
No. They're from South America.
Depends what you mean by bullet ants, because there's quite a few.
Are we talking about the proper bullet ants, South American ones?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
If there's like Asian bullet ants, I don't have any of those either. But I am working on getting some over.
What did you think when I mean, a lot of us think he's a bit of an idiot for doing stuff like this, but what did you think about Coyote Patterson when he got stung by one?
Well, you
got stung deliberately.
You can think people are idiots, but then the guy that works for me, Sam, he's always getting stung all the time. I caught him, you know, the Harpegnathos, the ones we just saw, got out, and then the next thing you know, he's picking it up with his fingers delicately, and it's crawling over his hands, and he's looking at it, and he goes to put it back in the tube, and then he'll get stung, and he'll just be like, "Ooh, you've had me." So some people are kind of like less, they've got a higher pain threshold than others, I guess.
Or if he's been bit that many times, maybe his body's built up a kind of immunity.
Oh, what's this, Sid? Sid, what are these? Pachyglondas? He's squeaking a lot, isn't he?
We'll put up with that.
Wait, Sid, did I send you these? Or are these yours?
He's setting up again, isn't he?
I don't know. I sent him something the other day.
Yeah, sorry. I have to take the headphones off when I'm setting things up.
What's these, Sid?
These are diacamera. So these are kind of.
Right.
These are more
Asian bullet
These are
ants.
rugosum diacamera. So they're kind of bullet ants. They're what people. They're the more commonly available. So there's the clavata ones, which are they're incredibly expensive. You're probably talking about £250 when they're available. They're very very difficult to keep, care for. They're very big. It's a high risk. You know, they're kind of incredibly advanced level. But these are a little bit more commonly available. I think you've had these in stock before, haven't you, Rich?
No. Not yet, anyway.
But these are a kind of, you wanted to see kind of bullet ants. These are the ones that you will see more widely available.
I'm scared of gamma gates, see? I'm just scared you'll not have a queen and then you sell it to someone and you've made a mistake, so I tend to avoid them. These don't fly, do they? They're gamma gates.
If somebody's kind of watching and they're kind of thinking, well, I've got...
So they rely on...
Oh, excuse me.
Karen, Scott, Karen.
Yeah, that's what scares me with gamma gates, see? I can't, it's too big a risk, isn't it? I don't have the skills to spot them. Scott's getting into trouble. Wait, he has got blue hair, isn't he? The Smith thing makes sense.
No, actually, it was my best mate on the phone. He's just dropping me off something. Yeah, the blue hair went blue because there was Steve over at Tarantula-tastic Enclosures did an autism raffle across a couple of months. Our 3-year-old's also, well, he's 4 now, sorry, our 4-year-old's autistic. I said to him, look, if you get to £1,500 raised, I'll dye my hair blue. And the subscribers out in the chat just bought raffle tickets left, right, and centre.
Just to see that.
Yeah, so I was like, right, yeah, I'll dye the mohawk blue. It has faded off a little bit, so I've got to redo it, like.
But you're keeping it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything to kind of promote autism awareness and what have you, and just to make it normal. You know, I think the days of taking your child through town and walking on all fours, people stopping and staring, are going to become a thing of the past.
It's starting to now, though, isn't it? It's if you can recognise that in somebody now, it's not as much of a. you know, years and years ago, it was like some Victorian freak show with Neanderthals, wasn't it? But now people are much more considerate and compassionate to these things.
I think it's just about people. They don't even have to recognise it's autism. They just have to know something's going on that, you know, is not being naughty. So there's no reason to do anything or do anything. Just carry on your journey. Obviously,
anyway.
you know,
So what if it was being naughty? It's people. Yeah, people need to mind their own business a bit more, I guess.
pretty much. I mean, always keep an eye out for kids anyway, because you never know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all I ask is if somebody wants to say something, a hello. That's fine. Just say hello to, you know, my lad. If he says hello back to you, then that's pretty much amazing. But he does scream a lot at the top of his voice and stuff like that. And that's what the blue hearts are in the chat now, because that's what the autism heart.
That's really nice.
But I mean, I was in town, me, the missus, the 3 children, and we're sitting having some dinner out in the open in the middle of the summer, like just jacket potatoes. And Leo, because a lot of their spinning around in circles and their outbreaks and shouting and crawling on all fours is more about them having a lot of energy and needing to release it quickly. So he was getting very agitated. He'd had his dinner, I'd had mine. So I said to the missus, look, you know, he's got his reins. I'll pull him out of the pushchair and I'll walk him for a couple of minutes. So I did that, and he screamed, and this guy stopped and stared. Me being me, I went to say, you know, what the fuck are you looking at, mate? I was going to lose the plot. And before I could do that, this woman come up to me. She went, "Don't worry about people like that, dear." She says, "You should have tried bringing up an autistic child in the 80s.
Yeah.
All these stories. And I said to her, I was born in 79. I says, and the names that we got told that, you know, or associated with autism. I said, I'm really, really sorry. I said, because we are guilty as children from saying all sorts of nasty things. And, you know, it kind of made me think, wow, we really have got it easy now. And it's because people in the past have fought to make it easy. So I think all we're doing, I mean, there's not just me, there's people in the chat that either have autism or are affected with autism or mental health. So it's all us guys coming together and just going forward and just going, you know, look, Karen, this is normal. This is normality.
Yeah. It's not affecting your life. Just carry on, you know. If anything, have a bit of sympathy for us living with it.
And if you don't like it, he's more accepted in society now than what you are with that view.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like Lu Pang's in the chat now. He does absolutely adore our lads. I mean, I'll tell you how much. I'll come home the other day, and both the boys, one with autism especially, doing frog jumps. And I said to the missus, he says, where did they learn that? And it was when Lu Pang come round, he was doing frog jumps from one side of the room to the other. And that was probably about 2 weeks beforehand. And our lad with the autism had remembered that. And then 2 weeks later, he started doing the same thing.
Oh, that's sweet, that. How old is he?
4.
Oh.
But the problem we've got is because we've got the 3-year-old, coming up to 3, he gets learned behaviour from the autistic child. So we have.
He's looking up to him and learning from him, isn't he?
Yeah. But I don't care what anybody says. I would not have Leo any other way. He drives you mad. He worries you like you would not believe. But life would not be what it is without him. That's for sure. And he's hilarious. We went through town, and he screamed at the top of his lungs like a cat, like he does, just to release the autism again. And this group of people absolutely shit themselves and jumped into the air. And I couldn't apologise. I was just laughing too much.
Yeah, that's funny though.
I looked at him and I was just like that. And I was just like, but it's the older generation, when they look at Stare, I have got a habit of going, Leo, scream, and he'll go, and then you see him going, like this, and it's like, good lad, I'll take you for some sweets. But yeah, sorry, yeah, we're getting got to speak talking about autism and mental health. We're going way off track of
that's their own neuroses, though. If they stop staring, whatever, what a sad life they have. Oh, these are the ones I sent you the other day, Sid.
We don't mind people looking, but stopping, staring, and bad comments. It's all right. I mean, if somebody looks, it's natural. You hear a scream, you turn around and look. And if there's a lad crawling on the floor in the middle of town, you're gonna look. It's the point where it goes from looking to staring. You know, we're a family. Don't single us out. Now, what are these ones? Sorry, I waffled off on one.
Yeah, these are something I sent Sid the other day, I think.
These ones, again, another one of the types of ants that really kind of got me really interested, because what these guys do, they are much like the Harpegnathos, where they are kind of solo hunters. They're big. I mean, it's hard to compare, but they're probably bigger than those Harpegnathos. Body very chunky, very armored ants, very powerful jaws, and they pack a hell of a sting. But what these can also do, they spray as a defense mechanism, or if something attacks them, they turn around and they spray. It's almost like what's that stuff? You know, when you're kids, that squirty foam you've got, silly string.
Yes,
it's like silly string, but it's like a burning acid. So whatever is attacking them basically will just burn and sort of. So it's a defense mechanism that I think only these ants have got. But yeah, I just found it really interesting that they have this ability to spray this venom foam as a defense mechanism, as well as being obviously, you know, very, very cool hunters. But yeah, I kind of, it's again one of the cool things with ants that they almost have each. There's a lot of different ants that have these kind of special secret powers. Be it, you know, the ability to jump, or the ability of great vision, or the ability to, you know, be incredibly strong, or the ability to spray, you know, venom foam. They've got all these kind of secret abilities. Some of them can breed with 1 million queens. Some of them don't even need to breed. There's ants that don't even have queens, where just the workers lay eggs, and they kind of they populate that way. So, but yeah, just these were just something I had lying around. Previously was the ants that give you your post-traumatic stress, the fire ants that stung you as a kid, and I've got some on next.
As I said, would it blind you if you got it in your eyes, or hurt, or?
Well, I would imagine I wouldn't necessarily blind you if you rinsed it out, but it is an acid and it is in your eyes. It's not going to be good for them.
Just grab a glass of water. I'll literally be 2 seconds.
What's that spring, Sid? Is that your... Oh, he's not got his headphones on, has he?
Well, I have now. What's up? What spring?
I hear springs. Is that you?
Oh no, that's Scotch chair probably.
Oh, is it?
It's the I've got one of those. So it's the one of those microphone booms or whatever they are. You know, the things that hold microphones. I've got that basically holding the camera, the phone, so I can move it around, and the spring is.
That's what I'm hearing then.
Sometimes you'll hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a rocker.
Literally, yeah, but it just squeaks.
I do. I twist. I can't sit still.
Those little beasties got to go. Fantastic live tonight, guys. Really interesting listening to you guys. Such a wealth of knowledge. Amazing. Cheers, Dave.
We're
Appreciate
all
it.
here.
I think Dave's Little Beasties is probably all our favourite
Right,
channel
Uncle Dave.
when it comes to spiders.
I mean, I must say it was nice to go to the Invert show.
Oh, that was great fun.
I mean, it was a first for me and Rich, and it was just nice seeing that. So many people just weren't really aware that ant keeping was really a serious hobby. I mean, I'd like to think that it's getting towards that stage. You know, like with AntCon, it's now got its own dedicated events. Be nice to see. I know that there are different ant vendors and stuff go to different invert shows, so it's nice to see that it's sort of creeping into the invert hobby as a whole. But yeah.
One day we won't be the outcasts.
Do you think as AntCon gets bigger, you'll invite maybe some of the tarantula suppliers along and
Yeah, I mean, we
really get the community to go?
the thing with AntCon is the joy of it is we just don't know where it's going to end up. We just don't know. We're playing it by ear at the moment. We had a good year last year, so we're expanding on that, and we wanted to see if we could sell out again with more people. Yeah, who knows next year? This is a dream, though, right? Is to have a united hobby. You know, and there will always be events for that, but yeah, we just don't know is the answer. We're just trying to do as much as we can for the people that go and make it a good time. Well, I guess we've got the invert shows as well that we go to. The nice thing
with AntCon is it's not. Yeah, the invert shows are great for the bringing kind of, you know, ants and tarantulas. So if you want to kind of see that stuff, the AntCon is really, it's kind of also a way of getting a lot of the content creators, because we had people coming from Denmark, from Netherlands, people are traveling from around the world for this, and it's nice to bring the content creators together so that, you know, they can all meet in the flesh, we can meet them in the flesh. You know, it's not just exclusive to our customers. You know, it's open to everyone in the ant hobby, or not just ant hobby. You know, it's open to absolutely everyone. But you know, it's a nice way for the people who are really into the hobby can kind of meet up and speak about ants, because, you know, it's a small hobby, so there's not many people you can talk to. You know, you've probably got a list as long as your arm of how many different people you can speak to about tarantulas. Ant keeping's not so much like that. There's not that many content creators. It's growing, but not as many. And also, AntCon's not actually just a one-day thing. So some of us meet a few days before.
There's a lot of content creators with tarantulas and inverts and reptiles. But before I got into it, I would never have thought or even known half of the people I do. And since getting into it, you know, I've met some amazingly cool friends, such as Ellie and everybody else. Like, so I should imagine the ant world is the same. You don't know until you're in it that so many people keep. It was only yesterday that I found out somebody else keeps tarantulas literally at the back of my house. You know, and that was like, what, really? So I should imagine it's that same kind of thing. But again, you know, it sounds like the shows are very similar. A lot of passion, a lot of content creators, a lot of people that are really passionate for the hobby, a lot of sellers and all the rest of it.
But yeah, that's the joy of it. You know, in the case of AntCon, the only sellers there, Sid and I, and it's not because that's the way we've designed it. You know, other people are welcome to come on board and foot some of the bill for it if they wanted. But it's more a way to give back to the community, and so that they can make some friends. But you're right. You know, you've got a guy behind you who also keeps tarantulas. It's amazing. We're in a small town. Carmarthen's a small town, but we've got so many customers there. It's phenomenal. They come out the woodwork. They come to the store and see the ants and pick them up. And I'm like, geez, this is a small town. You know, the Carmarthenshire as a whole, but we've got so many customers you wouldn't believe it. So yeah, it's the same with me.
Do you think that's because you're in Carnarvon? If
Yeah.
you're in Birmingham city centre, do you think you then would have attracted people in?
Quite possibly.
Probably
Quite
would never
possibly.
even have thought about keeping it if you weren't there.
Yeah, and we get a lot of conversions too, because we also own an escape room. So people coming to the escape room are very much integrated with the ants as they come through that. So we get a lot of questions and conversions that way. So maybe it is just that. It's the fact that we're there. We're getting a lot of locals.
So if it
And
comes
we're in a lot of schools as well. We send out free kits to schools so that they can teach the kids.
that's cool.
So of course they go home to mommy and daddy, and then they get their nest, and then before they know it, the parents are hooked as well. So yeah, locally, that's I think where a lot of the bulk comes from.
We could come along to AntCon, make a weekend of it, and go to the escape rooms at the same time as.
Yeah, well, I've got to close them to run the AntCon, but in theory, yes.
Gemma's asked, so if you bought the mess of barbarous ants, what's the difference between just buying the queen or getting them with a few friends?
So
what's the advantages and disadvantages, basically?
There's always going to be an advantage of getting workers. You know, there is a risk that the queen doesn't lay or efficiently enough or whatever. You know 100% she's good if she's got a few workers with her. But at the same time, it's really lovely to get a queen from a fresh queen and follow that journey from those first eggs all the way through to the first workers, and then to 100 to 1,000. If you want to connect with your pet and ants, you know, you can connect with them like people do with spiders and everything else. Connecting with your queen from those first eggs is something quite magical.
I mean, one of the things to also add, the ants, buying ants as queens and buying ants with workers is much like buying praying mantis in Star 1. So, you know, you've got that much higher chance of early molts going wrong. You know, again, I guess it's the same with tarantulas. You know, you usually want to get them when they're a little bit, not just when they're straight away hatched. So, you know, it's a lot of the time about the reliability of it maturing. So that's the same with queens and workers, because those workers will queens, so the chances of her failing the founding is lower.
I think with tarantulas, sellers will sell you a very, very, very small spider, and especially if you're new to the hobby, you go get it and it passes away, you know, for whatever reason, and then it puts you off. And then if you're new to the hobby and you go get like a large sling or a small juvenile, it's obviously got, like you're saying, got that better chance.
And it's the same with us, really. You save money. Oh, sorry.
So with the ants, what you're saying, instead of going for the single queen, which people do, so try and get a couple of workers that can then help maintain the queen, keep it clean, and start that colony off. I suppose you also know that queen's fertile as well if she's got some work.
It's not so much an issue with us. We've got a 6-month fertility guarantee. So if a fresh queen wasn't fertile and you know, she's not producing workers within the first 180 days, we'll take her back, we'll swap her out. But the thing with a fresh queen is we take the risk, don't we? So by the time they get to first workers, we've had to put in the time and the care and absorb the losses, and that's where the price increases. So really people buy fresh queens because it's their budget or it's a species they really want, and they can't run the risk of us selling out before it gets to workers. But yeah, fertility is not an issue with us anyway. If you buy a fresh queen and she's not fertile, we take her back, we'll swap her out. But you may have bonded with that queen, and there is that problem.
I think you've definitely sold me on the leaf cutters, and then those I can't remember the Latin name, the scientific name.
Oh, the Harpignathos, the Venators, yeah.
They are very interesting.
But you've got 300 spiders, Scott. It isn't going to end there.
No, I have got 300 spiders. I've got a very understanding partner.
Well, you must have.
Yeah, definitely. She understands that these are here and they're part of me, and it's pretty much as simple as that. I mean, my background is addiction and homelessness and stuff like that from 8-9 years ago,
Wow.
and built my way back up again. And those 2 tarantulas I was given when I was living by myself in a flat have literally helped me go forward in life. I know it sounds strange to many people, but it's true.
Well, it gives you focus, right?
Definitely. I can't live a normal life. I can't live in a family environment. I can't do everything everybody else does without having something. And this is my something. This is where I come and just de-stress from the day, work out, what's happened in the day, why it's happened, and all the rest of it. I can do that in here. My other half, my wife, she knows it's nothing personal against her or the family or the children. She understands that it's literally just part of me and how I can cope with it and how I can move forward. So she's very, very supportive. Although I do call her the enemy because she does whinge about some of my purchases. But ultimately, normally when I do get something, she ends up falling in love with it anyway.
Perfect.
Apart from
are no exception.
The true spiders, she literally just goes, and that's it. She don't want to know about those. But the couple of reptiles that we keep and a lot of the tarantulas, she does get a bit more interesting. But yeah, she's stolen my Aki monitor lizard, and if we ever get when we get the mantis, her and the daughter kind of steal those.
So do you do experience days as a venture and stuff like that, where you go out to parties and do petting and?
No. I know.
I saw
Leah,
somebody on a documentary that did that, and they got these lizards and they had spiders and snakes and all sorts, and they created a little business out of it, just going and being booked out, going and people could interact with these creatures, and as far as I know, they turned it into a really good business. They had bouncy castles as well, that might help. But the concept's the same.
If Leah's still here from Unusual Pets, she does that. She offers children's parties, and she'll take insects with her. I think does she take snakes with her as well, Ellie?
Huh?
On Leah's parties, what does she take?
Reptiles, they need to wait for the other insurance to come before they can take the reptile.
So, but I mean, if I threw that into the mix, I don't think I'd have enough time on top of it for me. Especially we have having 2 kids still at a very young age. Yeah. If they're a bit older, then I think that could be, but I don't know. It's YouTube. YouTube and social media gets very, very busy. And because I've got the addiction in the past, you get subscribers that are still in active addiction and mental health and stuff like that. So I get a lot of questions around that and what I did to get through and what they can do. So if it implemented my free time with that type of stuff as well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People just think you run a YouTube channel and a couple of in your Facebook and your Instagram and that's it. But it don't finish there. There's a lot of conversations with a lot of people as well as obviously our conversations before you guys come on the live as well.
Yeah, it all takes time, doesn't it?
And then if you look at 4 hours a week, that's just feeding the spiders and maintenance. I could do it in 2 hours, but I choose to take my time. And then obviously Tuesday evenings are full. Mondays, Sunday nights I do my filming, and Wednesday nights I do my filming ready for the Monday and Thursday releases as well. So it's Tara's in the chat actually. That's my wife. So yeah, it would get very busy if I was giving up a full day every week to do something like that as well as.
Yeah.
Plus with Leah doing it, it'd be treading on her toes as well.
I don't want to do that. You don't do that.
No. Have you got any other species of interesting ones, Sid? We can have a quick look at.
I've got loads. Let's have a look what we haven't seen. Okay, we can look at some kind of wood type ants, I guess. Bear with me.
Anton says, "Do you both keep any reptiles as well as the ants?"
No. I don't keep reptiles, and spiders freak me out. Interesting thing to say when I spend all day with ants crawling over me. But I definitely have a fear from somewhere.
If I come to the ankle, yeah, maybe I can help you get over it.
Yeah, and I need that to happen. Sam, the guy that works for us, he's got tarantulas and snakes and lizards and all sorts. But yeah, we need to. I need to get over my fear.
Phil's parents also do animal displays, schools, groups, and parties as well. You see, so you've got Lear in Wales, and then Phil's on the other side. So that's like, I mean, we're in the Midlands, so it's kind of it's covered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to impair on them at all.
There's a lot of birthdays though.
Yeah,
can't do more.
Philip Fish is asking what your rarest ants are. Like you actually.
The rarest. Jeez, you know, there's a few there that's really rare. Sid, what have I got? What's the rarest thing?
Well, your gigas will be the rarest at the moment.
You think?
Giga, easy gigas.
Yeah.
Easy. They haven't been available for years. This is the first time they've been available in the UK. Really, they are basically, for people who don't know, obscenely massive ants. You know, this one on the screen here, they're about 4 or 5 times larger, the queen, than that queen there, and that's already a big queen.
Yeah, she's easily 35 millimeters.
About 4 centimeters. The queen.
Just under 4.
Yeah. So they're but they're very big ants in general. I mean, the thing with rarity, it goes up and down because there's ants now. You know, if you'd said this 3 years ago, I'd have probably said leafcutters were the rarest ants you could probably get your hands on. Now, you know, thanks to people like Rich, they're widely available year round. So yeah, it's rarity's a difficult one to judge in the ants.
A lot of it's influenced by the community, though, isn't it? You know, introducing a new species, everybody finds it cool and wants it. The ants certainly go in and out of fashion. 2 years ago, I couldn't keep Paladula in stock for love nor money. Now I'm overrun with them. Can't wait to see the gigas at AntCon. Yeah, I'm keeping one.
Yeah, it does seem to happen in waves. So you know there are.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's definitely in waves.
So with the spiders, they're kind of.
It's.
Oh, sorry, Sid.
No. I was just saying that you know it comes in waves, and because it's still quite a small hobby in some ways, that as soon as a new species, it's probably the same with tarantulas as well. When a new species hits the market, it's like, oh, it's super rare. Everyone buys it up, and then it's no longer rare anymore. So yeah, it's really more what flavor of the month sort of thing. So. At the moment, the rarest in the UK, availability-wise, would be Rich's the gigas he's got. But who knows? Couple of years down the line, they may be as widely available as leaf cutters. So it's really more about what's the newest thing to hit the scene.
You've literally just answered the question, because I was literally just about to say, when a new species of tarantula gets discovered, it's always really expensive, and when people start breeding and all the rest of it, give it a year or two, it suddenly comes down from being like £100 a sling to being £20.
And it becomes a common sort of variant then, doesn't it? Because everyone's got them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there's some insane prices when it comes to baby spiders.
Same for everything, isn't it? Because Sam was telling me the other day, people pay thousands and thousands of pounds for a particular morph of things. And it's the first I'd sort of encountered the whole morphs in snakes. Christ, some of the things he was paying.
I'm not great with morphs or anything like that with snakes at all. Ellie, you any good on the morphs?
Well, it depends on the snake.
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but some sort of python or something, I don't know.
There's lots of different ones.
Either way, new things, they're very appealing to people, aren't they? And they pay good for them.
Oh, they trend hop, that's what they do. People are like, oh my god, somebody got this, I gotta have that. Then they get that. And they're like, I got too many, I can't keep them. I need to rehouse them. These little animals that you can keep them nicely. Don't buy everything.
We have people like that too.
Trend hopping annoys the shit out of me, literally.
PJ Ants, Scott, did you have fun with Dan and Scott on Sunday? Yeah, so Portsmouth Tarantulas asked me to work for them at the Inverts show. Leah and Ellie, they had their own stand as well. Yeah, mate, it was awesome. They're really, really nice people. Really, really nice people. Portsmouth Tarantulas was really, really busy stall as well. Really busy. It was good when people come up and didn't recognise me from YouTube and just wanted to talk spiders. That was good. And it was also good when people come up that did recognise. You know what I mean? But yeah, PJ, it was awesome. They're really, really nice guys. Highly recommend Portsmouth Tarantulas. Just the butts on those ants. Oh, thank you very much.
It's just the diversity of how they look and how the tarantulas are much the same in some ways with their coloration, and I guess actually in some ways mantis can change quite a lot. But it's nice to see again when you get into the exotic side of ants. There are some, the way they're built, the way they're structured, the way they behave. These have naturally an abdomen that curls underneath, and they stand above the abdomen, and they clip them. I've only just got these yesterday from Rich, and they almost communicate through a tapping of their abdomen. The workers even tap them in a kind of, when they're drinking sugars, they tap them in like a clockwork motion, a rhythm. So it's just again different things. They're ants that do that, and I've never seen that in any other ant species. So a lot of very cool things. The way they act, they react. You can almost never get bored. But this is also one of the dangerous things with ants is you'll get one, you'll love them, you'll then see something cool about another one. Just like you've seen, you might have originally had an idea that you want to get leaf cutters. And then you've seen the Harpeg Gnathos, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Whoa. Yeah. I actually really like that. Then you'll see something else, and you'll be like, oh, actually. But they've all got different the way. This is just individual traits. So the other thing to bear in mind is the way the colonies grow and behave is also extremely different to by different species. So one might be like the previous ones, those wood carpenter ants. They grow very, very, very slowly. That colony is like 2 years old, and it's maybe got like 20, 30 workers. But I've got colonies that are 3-4 months old, and they have got thousands of workers. So sometimes people get a bit bored of having the ones that only have a few workers. So they will then buy a colony that grows really fast. So, there's the nice thing with ants is if you do enough research and you ask about, you can get the right colony that fits the exact type of ant keeping you want. Whether it's, you don't want things that are going to have to cost you a lot of money in setups, or they're going to be really easy to look after, or, like, for example, like the Mesobarbarus in that Saturn. If you're the type of person that goes away for long periods of time, like you every few months you need to travel for 3 weeks, bam, that's the colony for you. That's the setup that you'll be able to, leave in a long period of time. Well, not necessarily the setup, just the ants in general. They need water and they just need seeds. So, there's a wide range of things that can kind of meet a lot of keepers' requirements, really. But it does suck you in.
I have got a real serious one for you, Sid. Sid?
I think he's got a bit of delay.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'm here. You go on.
He said, when are you going to give your spider a tickle again? Says PJ Ant. And we need the story.
The thing is, I had two. So basically, what it was. Okay, so this is the story.
No, it has.
So I got two. I forget the Latin name for them, but they're the Brazilian blues, satzimas or something like this. They are. I just wanted to kind of. They're my first proper tarantulas. And sorry,
the Sarzame. Was it a P Sarzame?
It could be, yeah. It could be those. I forget. It could be, yeah. That does ring a bell. They're like blue. They're blue ones. I saw a picture. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't do much research into them. I saw them on Spider Shop. They were cheap. I got 3-4 slings. One I lost in the mold. One was just massive, so I'm guessing it was a female, and I've got the male. I had them in a setup, and the female managed to lift the lid, and that's the one, OC Tarantula. That's the name, and I assume it's a she because she was so much larger. She escaped, and and literally I'm like, oh my god, if the wife finds this, I'm literally dead.
We've all been there.
She draws a line kind of ants and stuff, really, and I know. I kind of thought they don't mind jumping spiders, so like I kind of, when they were small, I said they're like those, and she thinks the jumping spiders are cute, so that kind of that was actually the first stepping stone, and then she took that fine, so it was great. Anyway. So this tarantula escaped, and I'm like heart palpitations, thinking this is in the house somewhere, but it's in the room where I'm kind of where I'm at the moment, the office. And the last thing I want in the back of my mind is just thinking there's somewhere there's a tarantula in this room. And luckily I found it. It wasn't too far, but I think what it done is it fell onto a bit of cardboard packaging, and basically it looked like it shed its hairs. So it was completely bald on its on its rear end. So I put it back in the setup, and I was really curious. I just mentioned it on a stream sometime. I was really curious to know what it would feel like, how smooth it is. Because I remember I was always interested in those Sphinx cats because they're completely bald, and I was curious to know what their bald skin would feel like. Is it like freshly shed? Anyway, so it became a thing, and they were all like just pushing me to basically to stroke the rear end of this tarantula, and all was fine. But naturally, when I stroked it a little bit, I got a little bit too fresh with it, let's say, and it darted. And these things, well, you probably got tarantulas like this, but the thing teleported, scared the living bejeebers out of me. Thankfully, that one's not quite as scary as I think the male is. So in hindsight, I should have really got something a little bit more slower. But yeah, that was a story behind that one.
Sid, trust me, Sarzame has got nothing on some of the stuff that we keep. When it comes to True Spiders and the Huntsman, you blink and they're literally on the other side of the room.
I know, yeah. I know, yeah. The Huntsmans, and never in a million years would I go near the Huntsmans.
Rehoused a lichen huntsman, which is a heteropoda boa, yesterday, and it come flying out the enclosure. Ran because I keep all my stuff in the kitchen. Ran across the floor and luckily just stopped underneath the bin. So I picked the bin up, catch-cupped it, and then managed to get it back in again. So lucky. So lucky. I was half expecting to see it up the wall and me spend the next week or two trying to get it into a catch cup. Lupin keeps dropping Ellie and Leah's Lincoln. This is one of the drawings that she does.
Oh.
She does the spiders in there as well and all sorts. So
very cool.
That's really cool.
Which is pretty epic. If Lupin could just drop a link into the comments again, that would be awesome. Babe, that's right.
What?
Sheet of paper from the top.
Can't reach.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't. Oh. Scott, look.
There you are. No. It's just stuff like that as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
What this offer on at the Inverts show? Because what's really refreshing, especially now that those two are doing stuff like that, is there's a stand that's just not, moves away a little bit from live stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to the show and you think, I bought a couple of spiders, but I've still got 30 quid left, burning a hole in your pocket, and you're thinking, I ain't got enough room, go see Leah and Ellie, and you come away with some lovely little trinkets.
Where's this one? There it is.
Anton got two very good indicators that my snakes are going to breed. He's got the green tree pythons, and the happy penises are out on the male.
Crabs are funny fuckers. Every time we go near them, they run.
What have we got now, Rich?
Well, on Sid's screen.
Yeah.
Sid, is this the Geminata? What is this?
No. God.
Where are the Geminata?
They're Monmorium. Their
These
common name is.
Don't
make me put the Geminata on the screen.
These
are the Ferranus. They're Pharaoh ants.
Oh, right. It's a good camera, mind, because these are tiny.
PJ, I'll have to have my,
it's a good old lens that I don't know. I got really lucky with that.
Fucking have him, you wait.
I mean, the real test will be these. Let's see if I can get these up.
There.
What am I
Sid, check the screen.
I've got my phone recording. There.
Oh, this
You
is
can-
him,
getting,
right.
You can blame PJ for this. Thank you, Vivian.
Sweats again. I did it the first time. It was all right. It was, and then it darts. Look how bald it was. I just had to see what it felt like.
They do that when you keep tickling them.
Yeah, they flick the hairs off their bum, and they flick them around the enclosure to make predators irritate.
Hey, Sid, I did. Sid, I said it
Yeah.
from the front.
Yeah. I mean, she had full hair, but when she escaped, something must have happened when she escaped, and she flicked hairs. Sometimes when I found her, she was completely bald like that. So, yeah, that was
They will, if they feel threatened, they will keep flicking hairs until they are bald like that, and then they'll come back again after a molt. Vivian, thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Really, really appreciate that.
Never said she had my logo.
It's just so she can do the Tara's Army logo.
Yeah.
You're taking a piss.
Oh, it's the first thing she did not.
My God. I've got the Scots Inverts Army, and the enemy has got the Tara's Army. So Vivian's and Tara have both put her symbols up, which the channel members can do.
That's cool.
She's got her own Facebook group going as well, Tara's Army. She had to do it for Tara's Army. About time, mate. It is. Vivian's also Dutch, but she's like literally fast become a close friend. Like, I think everybody that you meet in the hobbies become close friends really, really fast, don't they?
That's the nice thing about it, isn't it? You've instantly got something in common with somebody else, and the rest is just the simple stuff.
I've got a mug from Creepy and Crawley UK, and it says introverted and less talking about tarantulas. So if you take the tarantulas away and just put animals in general, I think that's probably the best way. Because when, I mean, you speak to, I call non-invert keepers, non-animal keepers, they're just normal people. You speak to normal people, they're on about football, they're on about politics, what's going on over here, what somebody else is doing, the bin men have been like, all that bullshit. And I can't be full. I'm like, you're boring me. As soon as somebody says, I've got this spider, I've got that spider, I'm keeping these ants, I'm doing this, like, I'm like, oh, hello.
Tell me.
Now you've got my interest. You know, if next door neighbour's having an affair with number 32, I don't give a shit. That does not bother me, you know. And if Uncle Bob's got with Auntie Flo on the EastEnders, that does not bother me either.
If somebody's got a sling that's just been delivered and you're there.
Yeah. Lou Pang in chat, and Chris ain't in here tonight. I met them literally this year, and both of them have literally become like family to me. In fact, there's quite a lot of people in chat that are like family, and that have been in chat. Especially this one up here.
Yeah. I think I need glasses, you know.
And Callum is just immense. And Phil, yeah. Everybody, all subscribers. They're not subscribers, are they? They're friends. I suppose are you the same with customers?
Yeah,
Customers that just fast become friends.
You really get to know them.
I mean, like OC and Vivian, they're Dutch. You know, I've never met them in real life. Gemma, I've never met her in real life. But I've chatted with like close friends. Gemma, there's so many people. It's wow, they're tiny.
Yeah, I've got to put the pen there for a kind of comparison. They are absolutely minute, and the camera you can see, because obviously you can see them, you know, in zoom, but when you see them in the flesh, you know, it's almost like hard to see. They're just like little tiny black dots. They almost look like little mites. Yeah, but it's just, you know, that just goes to show the range of them as well, going from, you know, like, you know, less than a millimeter, you know, all the way up to 35 mil. So there's such a diverse range of stuff that can kind of keep you busy.
I've got to admit, I prefer the bigger ones. by a long shot. But having said that,
Yeah, a lot of people do.
you should imagine
I mean,
that once you get a couple of colonies of the bigger ones, and your interest grows and grows and grows and grows, you start looking at the dwarf species as well. It's the same with the spiders.
And they don't take up as much room. You can have thousands in a colony in such a small footprint. As a swarm, they'd look awesome.
Scott, I'm going to have to jump off, okay? So feel free to go.
don't take up much room.
All right, Ellie. Thank you.
See you later.
Nice to meet you, Ellie.
Bye.
One of the questions that I did want to ask, because obviously there's going to be people that in the chat that now go, Scott, you need the Nikos in your life, bud, says PJ Ants.
Of course, yeah.
I want those other ones before anything. I think those were something else. Those then the leaf cutters. Once we've got the experience of keeping those ones, I think. But obviously, there's people in the chat that are going to hook you guys up and come check out what you've got. What kind of aftercare do you both provide? Because obviously, if I'm pointing people to you guys, I'd like to know that if they're worried, let's say in a week's time, they get their answer on a Monday, and the following Monday they're like, "Oh shit! How is this right? Is that all on the Discord? Is it or?"
Well, yeah. You can. We've got Discord. You can contact through the website, through email. There's plenty of ways to get in touch. We do have care guides as well that we give out to give the basics and things. But yeah, people, especially like the Discord's probably the best place because all of our customers are together, and that one of them will probably beat me to it usually. But yeah, there's no prevention for help in the future. We even take on people's colonies for them to go on holiday and things like that, and we look after them for them. We've got lengthy fertility guarantees to make sure that we're selling the best that we can. Crikey, one of the ant YouTubers, Rob J, he's just moved to Dubai for a couple of years, and I'm looking after his colonies for him, so when he gets back, they're still there. And I'll use them as display colonies, So yeah, if people are worried they're going to get confused and need extra help, that's what we're here for. That's why you buy from us, isn't it? Over somebody else. It's because we're there for that.
PJ says respect for you both.
That's kind of you, PJ.
What would you say are the common mistakes somebody that's just getting into the ant hobby make? Let's say they've got their first colony. What's the most common mistakes, and how do we avoid those?
There's two really. There's two main ones that I need to create automated emails for. The first one is impatience. These colonies can take years to grow. People expect it to happen straight away, so they get impatient.
Could one of the moderators? Cheers, Callum. You already done it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Callum smashes it. The moderators are so quick on rubbish. They've just had somebody try and...
Oh, it's spam, was it?
Yeah, some spam.
Yeah. So people get impatient, so they rush things. And that's the biggest mistake. They'll want them in a nest straight away when they could be better in a test tube. So they'll move them into a nest that's far too big. They'll stress the colony. They'll check on them too often. So yeah, for a new person, impatience is the one thing that I think costs a lot of colonies.
How do you stop yourself checking on an ant colony that you've just got, though?
Yeah, see...
we've got spiders, right? And literally... We're like this.
I know, but in the founding stages of a colony,
get 30 of them, and then that will control your need.
In the founding stages, every time that queen feels vibration, she's going to be scared. And the problem is, some queens fight, some queens will flight, but you know, their natural instinct is going to be to absorb all of the protein in the nest and then run to a new location where they start again. So you create this cycle of her eating her eggs every time she's disturbed. And then, she, you know, in the wild, she'd run somewhere new, try a new nest, and then lay again. So yeah, you can see them, you know, in the early stages. You know, you could even put them on like acoustic foam or something, you know, something to prevent vibrations, which would help. But yeah, it's that movement of their setup that's going to cause the stress.
What acoustic foam can be quite expensive. If you go to an aquatic shop and ask them for the silencing foam for the aerators, that's like pence. It's absolute pennies.
Is it really?
Yeah, and what that does is you put it underneath one of your compressors that produces the air, and because they vibrate so much, it takes all that out. So instead of the air pump sitting there buzzing, it stops it buzzing.
See, and if you got your little test tube starter kit and put it on there, that would take out a lot of the day-to-day, you know, vibrations that would stress them out.
But then I suppose if you go on eBay and you get a Ring camera, indoor Ring camera, and you've got the app, you can literally check on your queen while you're sitting in another room while you're not
Providing
even.
it'll focus on something so small, but yeah, you could.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So to me, Sid, that looks like a hole in an acorn.
For acorn ants.
You are exactly right. So the reason I put those on, I'm hoping that we'll see one of the workers emerge. But when Rich was mentioning about you don't necessarily need much room for them, this particular ant colony, so inside that acorn is approximately about 100 ants and a queen. You know, so naturally in the wild they will they rely on a grub that basically burrows into acorns, or I think it's a moth that lays an egg inside an acorn. The grub then eats about a quarter of the acorn, and it kind of it produces a waste that's almost like that stuff that's by the entrance there. It's almost like a soil, and the ants a queen will crawl in after the grub has left, so he'll eat a hole like that, which is that hole there. When he comes out, or she, whichever, a queen will go in, lay some eggs, and she will found her colony inside that acorn. And then when it's got to a certain size, they will try and find a piece of wood or something larger. But a vast portion of their life, they live and make their nests, which gives them the name. They're known as acorn ants. But yeah, inside that little acorn is an entire colony.
Wow. Mind blown.
You can see some antennas poking around.
So yeah, you don't need masses of space for some species.
These I would not recommend.
Yeah, people subscribing
these
also
as a main colony, but they're a very interesting kind of one of those side colonies.
Yeah, people subscribing, please go check out Antscapes, as well as hope he can drop his own link in the chat. His name's Ryan. He is also one of the loveliest men you'll ever meet in your life. I'm on bait. I'm on tenderhooks, waiting for one to come out.
They're very shy.
Well, we get this though. We get this situation.
Maybe if I disturb the entrance a little bit, I'll see. They are very timid ants.
I mean, us as like spider keepers, we get this as well because we get the same situation going on with our spiders. We get what's known as a pet hole, which is just a hole in the ground, and you wait forever for your spider to ever emerge, even if it fully ever does.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, it waits for the food to crawl near its entrance, and you just see a pair of legs come up and pull it down.
That's all you're getting.
that's it. Sometimes you only know that spider's alive because the food disappears, or you go to bed and you wake up and it's done a poo up the window. That's literally it.
He's dropped a bit of sugar by the entrance. That should tempt them.
Can they smell that sugar, do you think? Or
I would think so. They definitely beeline for it when it's in an enclosure.
Possibly, I have no idea, but it might encourage one of them to emerge.
don't you sell
a few minutes and then
flavoured sugar water?
Said something else. Sorry?
I said, don't you sell the sugar water in different flavours?
So I sell it in. I don't flavour the sugars. I sell a kind of classic sugar that has colour of red. But there's a new sort of sugar that I'm working on, like kind of colourless one. Rich is the guy, the go-to guy for the flavours and the colours.
I've got all the gimmicky flavours.
Can the tell the difference between the flavours?
Well, they definitely have favourites between them.
That's my next question was going to be that. Have you ever set it up so you've got several different flavours in the same enclosure?
I haven't, but when I created a new flavour, I sent them to Sadie at Ants England, and she set them all out, and it's how we decided of the new flavours, which one we were going to release. Oh, here's one.
Ants England's awesome, by the way. I've met Sadie.
Oh,
she's lovely.
She's really good. See, the acorn ant there is just sipping the sugar.
He's having the time of his life, isn't he? Yeah. He's literally like, I'm going to have some of this before all my mates come and jump on it.
Hopefully he'll...
Do you think he's sending pheromones out now?
Well, hopefully that will happen, and a few more of them will start poking their heads out now.
Yeah, when she goes back in and starts feeding that to the
I would imagine so, but we'll soon find out.
Do you reckon they do wait a couple of seconds before sending that signal out?
Yeah, maybe they... Yeah, I would.
Just to go...
I would.
to fill themselves up.
Yeah.
Can you keep anything else in?
I mean, the nice thing with ants as well, though, they're extremely selfless because you can keep. I mean, like these actually are very passive ants, so you can. A lot of people will keep these ants with other things like isopods and even other ants. So there are certain ants that you can keep these ants in the same enclosure. For example, like some carpenters. Yeah, so there are kind of those more aggressive ones, and there are ones that are more accepting of certain other ants. I'm guessing they look at them as a level of threat, and as you can see, these are extremely timid, very mild, not very threatening ants. They're extremely peaceful. They just they don't roam very fast. So I'm guessing ants just look at them like, small springtails and isopods, that kind of thing.
That's Steve's.
What's that queen there?
I think. Give me 1 second. I think it's Steve. Steve W in chat. Is that the acorn ants? Did you say? If I swap me for you, Sid, for a second.
Oh look, there's the queen there. Yeah, she's just walking off. Oh.
It does. It does look. I'm wondering which variant of them, but yeah.
Are they Niraldi?
That does look like a Temnothorax.
It looks Temno.
Yeah, he says he's just put acorn ants.
Ah, yeah, they are a Temnothorax.
Yeah.
That's a nice queen, that, isn't it? Easy to see.
Yeah, so that's basically they are what's going on inside this.
And then with us, we tend to stick with dwarf isopods, so dwarf wood lice. because generally they're not calcium dependent. So when the tarantula goes into molt, a lot of the species of wood lice could potentially start munching on that molt and kill the spider. Is there any isopods that you can't put in with ants because they will affect the colony, or?
None that I know of. Yeah, none that I know of. I mean, I've got isopods living in some setups, and they're living absolutely fine. Although I've got an Asian carpenter ant, a singularis colony, and every time I put isopods in there, they just butcher them. So yeah, in that case, no isopods. They even took out millipedes the other week.
So I know Antscapes has got some pretty multi-special setups going on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
his
that's
life
kind of the dream, that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, just having all this life, just your own ecosystem.
He has got an incredible eye for it, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he's got a gift in making a setup. He helped me with mine. Yeah, when I needed it to make some, he's the guy you call. Oh, they're so small, aren't they?
Tiny. When you think that's making.
There's a question there. So, do you think they choose the acorn due to? Okay, right. So, Ryan, basically the logic behind this one. So I've got these naturally in my garden, and I was always trying to hunt these things down, and I have a big colony of them. So people say they only get to like 7,500 workers max. Absolute load of gibberish. I've got a colony nesting in a wooden pot, way bigger than that, way bigger. So there's a lot in this hobby where people say things, and I think they think that because they make nests in acorns and there's only like maximum 75 workers in acorn, that is as big as they go. No, they will vacate this because this acorn won't last forever. It'll last like all the winter. By spring, it's all decomposed and there's no more acorns then until late summer anyway. So they then vacate that. They go and make nests in wooden trees and logs, etc., etc. Oh look, they're starting to venture out now. A few more of them. And what I think might be going on here is this is why I was curious to find. I always look for acorns that look like ants had dug a hole into them, but I can never find any. And then a certain time of year, it was a few weeks ago, I noticed that the acorns falling all seem to have this little dot in them. So when I broke the acorns open, I noticed that there was a grub inside. This white grub, beetle grub, but I think it's a moth. And then basically I kept those acorns. I noticed that after a while, those grubs, when they're fully fed, they basically burrow out. And I think that basically it's a combination of, it could be that the ants maybe, because obviously there are seed-eating ants, maybe these acorn ants live off because I never see them coming out. So maybe it's that throughout winter they survive off the remnants of the acorn inside. Maybe it's the waste of the grub that maybe it's got some sort of bacterially beneficial things going on there. I'm not too sure, but one thing I can say is this is why I've got the acorn in here to study them. And one thing I will say is they were in test tubes. They were doing great in test tubes when I were in here. But when I put this acorn in there, overnight, the entire colony vacated the tubes straight into that acorn. So could be light, could be the actual acorn as food, could be the waste from the grub, could be just generally the sense of their natural thing that they're used to just hunting down acorns. I don't know. I mean, it's one of the great things with ant keeping. There's so many unexplained answers that questions out there. But we just do these tests and we try and learn from this. But yeah, they absolutely love the acorn. Went straight into it.
Are they UK species then?
Oh yes. Yeah, you find them in the UK.
Yeah. They're You'll find them in most forests and things. They're actually surprisingly common when you know where to look for them.
So on this note, guys, I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's been awesome to meet you, Scott. And yeah, I'm sorry, but my time has come.
No. To be honest, we normally finish between sort of 10 and half past.
But then you met Sid.
But then I met you guys, yeah, and I think those ants from earlier are definitely going on the wish list, along with the leaf cutters. That is definite. You're definitely going to be seeing those species on this channel in the future for 100%.
Well, message me and we can see what we can do for you. And
okay, we'll do.
You need ants in your life.
Yes, most definitely. But before we finish, if one of the moderators could just put the website's links back into the chat again, and if you don't get those links now, you can always pop back to this video because the links are also in the description, and go hit them up and check it out. So if one of the moderators could put Wakooshi's link and Antics link, that'd be wicked. So Happy Ants just dropped Antics in. Thanks for the live, guys. Amazing. Scott, I blame you as always. Cheers, guys. Appreciate that. And
well, thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for giving up your evening. Really, really appreciate it. Really fascinating.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always nice to convert.
I think it's fake too.
I've absolutely loved it this evening. It's been really, really interesting. And I hope if you guys are up for it, another live in the future.
I'm up for that.
You've really opened my eyes with a couple of those species, I must tell you.
I mean,
now, man.
It's always great to talk about.
And to think that there's a species of ant that lives in the cold.
That was the intended aim of the stream.
You certainly did that. Still can't get over him tickling a tarantula, says Gemma. Yeah, I think there's a couple of people in chat that are going to be hooking you guys up and coming over. I think Gemma's on about the blame Scott's inverts is they always do it when they get a new tarantula. I always say just blame me.
Yeah,
if your partner gets annoyed, just blame me. Tell them you won it in a giveaway. Tell them it's my fault, not a problem. So that's the hashtag. So yeah, I think. What if you just want to mention AntCon, how we can get tickets, and what it's about briefly, just before you disappear?
So
that would be awesome.
AntCon is for anybody that loves ants. We've got people coming to talk from various organisations in relation to ants and the ecosystems around them. You can find out more, watch a little trailer video from last year and get your tickets all at antcon.co.uk.
I think
easy as that.
I think I'm going to be going, and I think if I don't, Callum will literally cry.
You've got to now. You've got to.
So I think I've got to pop over, and what a great excuse to come over to Wales as well.
Yeah, of course.
You know, not like you need one. You don't need an excuse to go to Wales. Wales is stunningly beautiful. It certainly is. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for coming to member. Viv. Really appreciate it.
The nice thing as well, it's you can make a kind of weekend. You can make a weekend of it as well. So there will be elements, content creators and stuff going down sort of for the Thursday night, the Friday night. So people can come earlier and sort of meet up with the likes if they follow content creators and things. So there are it's not just a one day thing. People can make a kind of weekend of it. There will be things going on the Sunday as well. So it's a lot. It can be a long way for some people to travel, but it's kind of unlike the invert shows where they are kind of just happen during the day and make it's a kind of there is stuff to do for the which is nice.
The invert shows
there's setup, there's ants, and also there's discounts that you get there that you wouldn't normally get.
Okay.
going to leave you in his capable hands. But thank you very much, and
No
good
worries.
night, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Rich. Really,
No,
really
you're
appreciate your
welcome.
time and the
Thank
information
you.
that you gave. And yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll catch you up in a bit now.
No worries.
Bye. Bye.
See you later, Rich.
Yeah, he's gone, Sid. He's gone. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disappear because I haven't had dinner yet, and I am starving. I hate to end a good stream like this, Sid, to be honest. But again,
Oh no, it's look.
Thank you for your time and positioning of your camera tonight and getting the macro footage has been impressive, to say the least. Really, really, really enjoyed that.
Well, you know, it's nice because I think with ants being so small, it is quite important to have them on macro because you can almost if you zoom in on things or zoom out, you know, it doesn't seem as interesting. It's when you really get close to ants and you start seeing the interactions between them. That's when things really get interesting. You know, like the Harpagnathos, it's fun watching them, but when you see really how they interact, and you know, you can see that when you're looking at them up close with your eyes, but trying to put them on camera, it's just not the same. And that's why I thought, you know, it'd be nice to, because I often do a kind of a chat on Discord on Friday evenings, where often I'm doing ant maintenance and stuff, and I have this kind of this same sort of thing going on where I'm running various experiments with various different ants and learning and researching and testing things. So, you know, this is why. But it's, you know, it's the feedback from people. It's nice to be able to see them up close. So hopefully this has helped, you know, people get a bit more of an idea of what ants are truly like, rather than just seeing them from a distance and being like, oh, it's just a lot of dots running around. So yeah, but it's been fantastic to be here, and you know, it's nice to be invited.
Again, that's another aspect of ant keeping is the photography and the videography side of it. And even if you're not into videography, just to try and zoom in on the ants and catch them doing things that you wouldn't even notice otherwise, is got to be an interesting side to it as well. But yeah, I've got to stop rambling, Sid. Otherwise, we're going to be here literally till about 2-3 in the morning. But to everybody in the stream, thank you guys so much. To the new subscribers from the ant community, thank you so much for popping over to essentially a tarantula channel and chilling out with us, guys. Do expect to be seeing ants on this channel in the future for definite. There's been some absolutely amazing species up on screen. Those ones that I'm interested in, the speed. You had them stalking, and then the speed they took down that prey item was just amazing. So to try and capture some of that and maybe do some slow-mo videos of those guys going into action would be pretty cool, I think. And maybe put some side by side with how the tarantulas do it as well. So, you know, that might be pretty cool. Again, it was Antics and Wakooshi. So please go check those guys out. Again, both websites also have links to the Discord chat. If you do buy off of these guys, you know, you're never going to be left alone with your ants. If you need extra support or anything, or if you just want to go for the chat. Cheers, Phil. Right, Sid. Thank you, mate. Really, really appreciate your time.
Been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you soon.
No worries. Take care, mate. See you later. Bye, everybody.